Chapter 2131. If another Archean monster appeared, they would definitely be finished. However, there were indeed many treasures inside. Not long after they entered, they found a few stalks of spiritual herbs growing in the corners. In the outside world, it was already extinct. It could be said that it was extremely precious. Everyone's eyes burned with passion when they saw that. At that moment, the red-robed elder on the third prince's side sneered. He said, "Although we've joined hands, it seems like we should talk about the distribution of the treasures." Hearing that, the third prince sneered. The elite mighty figures around them were all on guard. They circulated the spiritual power in their bodies as if they were about to attack at any time. It seemed like they were about to fight if there was a disagreement. "How do you want to split the treasures?" Taoist Master Long asked in a deep voice. His face was cold and solemn. "You have fewer people, so you can take 30%. We have more people, so we naturally want 70%. This is the most reasonable distribution." "What? We get 30%? Hearing that, the Lord of the Underworld's face darkened. "What a joke. 50-50? Otherwise let's fight. Let's see who's stronger." To be honest, he was not the type to be bullied. When he entered, he had tacitly agreed to split the treasures equally. However, the other party wanted to take 70% of the treasures. How could that be possible? "What? Are you unwilling? You have no right to bargain in front of me," the third prince shouted coldly. The red-robed elder next to him also said, "You three, I think you should think carefully. 30% is a lot for you. Why are you so greedy? Otherwise you won't even get 10%. Fuck. This is too much." The Lord of the Underworld was furious. He had tricked them into entering and then bullied them to take 70% of the treasures. How could the Lord of the Underworld and the others tolerate that? "Kid, why don't we attack and beat them up?" The Lord of the Underworld looked at Lin Xian. Lin Xian could even injure an Archean monster. He was very powerful, which shocked the Lord of the Underworld and the others. Therefore, the Lord of the Underworld wanted to team up with Lin Xian to fight against the third prince. Lin Xian also frowned. When he heard the Lord of the Underworld's words, he also spoke in a deep voice. 30% is indeed not appropriate. However, I don't think you're willing to split the treasures equally. Kid, what are you talking about?" When he heard Lin Xian's words, the Lord of the Underworld was originally quite happy. However, when he heard that Lin Xian wasn't willing to split the loot 50-50, he was stunned. What's wrong with this kid? A 50-50 split was the most advantageous for them. Not to mention the Lord of the Underworld, even Taoist Long looked confused. The third prince frowned. What the hell was this kid doing? So he said, "What do you want?" It was very simple. There was no need to split the loot. Everyone would fight for the treasures here based on their own abilities. Lin Xian's lips curled up as he spoke of his plan. What? Fight for it with their own abilities? Hearing this, everyone was stunned. The third prince's side was even more stunned. They had originally thought that Lin Xian would raise some conditions that would resist. However, he didn't expect that the other party would propose such a condition. Immediately he sneered. Because of a mediocre ability, the other party probably wouldn't even be able to get 10%. Thinking of this, they all sneered in disdain. On the other side, Taoist Long and the Lord of the Underworld were also stunned. Then the Lord of the Underworld said, "Kid, are you crazy? This is the best choice. I think the two of you should have your own secret methods, right? So, are you willing to split the loot this way?" Lin Xian asked. "I have no problem with that." Taoist Long nodded and agreed to the distribution method. The Lord of the Underworld also sighed. All right. Although he didn't have any secret methods, he was the Lord of Darkness. In the Dark Canyon, his combat power was enhanced. Therefore, seeing that Lin Xian and Taoist Long had agreed, he had no choice but to agree. "It seems that you're overconfident." The third prince sneered. "Do you really think that you can do whatever you want just because you can fight against the dark demon crocodile?" Indeed, the other party had made a dark demon crocodile disappear, which was shocking. However, that didn't mean that the other party was truly powerful. If they really fought for the treasures, the third prince was certain that they would have an absolute advantage. Thinking of this, the third prince sneered. "Since we'll fight for it with our own abilities, then so be it. However, don't cry when the time comes. You don't have to worry about that." The Lord of the Underworld snorted coldly, while Lin Xian directly ignored the third prince and the others. Since they had already decided to fight each other, he wouldn't give up this good opportunity. In the next moment he looked at the few herbs in front of him. As an alchemist, Lin Xian had a huge need for herbs. Moreover, he could tell at a glance that the herbs in front of him definitely had extraordinary origins. They couldn't be found outside at all. Thinking of this, he strode forward. Kid, you're courting death. When the third prince saw Lin Xian swaggering towards the front, intending to pick the spiritual herbs, he was shocked. He was immediately displeased. What a joke. Can't you see that there are so many elite mighty figures here? How can a kid behave so atrociously here? One of the mighty figures was displeased. He sneered, reached out his palm and grabbed in front of him. He seemed to be attacking Lin Xian, but he also seemed to be picking the herbs. It could be said that the threat was very obvious. Get lost. Lin Xian's face darkened and he snorted coldly. He didn't even turn his head and slammed his palm forward. Immediately, a blue ice palm slammed out and collided with the mighty figure's palm. Boom. The ice exploded, and a terrifying aura instantly caused the temperature in the entire cave to plummet. The surrounding ground was covered in frost. The mighty figure's palm was also covered with a layer of blue frost. An extremely terrifying icy aura surged into his body. Boom. The mighty figure retracted his palm, and his expression became extremely ugly. Kid, you're courting death. In the next moment he probed his other palm. He quickly struck it out. This palm was directly aimed at Lin Xian without any concealment. It was obvious that the mighty figure was furious. Buzz. Lin Xian's body instantly disappeared and reappeared in front of him, dodging the palm. Then he waved his hand, picked the herbs in front of him and put them into the black earth. Damn it. Seeing this scene, the mighty figure roared crazily, while the third prince's face darkened. This is a slap in the face, a slap in the face. Previously they had mocked Lin Xian and said that if they fought with their own abilities, they wouldn't be able to get anything. But now Lin Xian had picked 3 precious herbs right in front of them. If this wasn't a slap in the face, what was? Especially the mighty figure who attacked earlier, his face darkened. He had attacked twice, but he couldn't do anything to Lin Xian, which made him lose face. Kid, hand over those 3 herbs. Chapter 2132. Lin Xian sneered. Hand it over? What? Are you an idiot or are you out of your mind? How can I hand it over when I already have it? He rolled his eyes and sneered at such an unreasonable condition. As for that almighty, he was infuriated. You have a death wish. Since you don't want to cooperate, don't blame me for taking action. You want to snatch it? Let's see if you have what it takes. Lin Xian sneered. Hearing Lin Xian's words, the mighty figure quickly charged over. He extended his palm and slapped down. Instantly, the void trembled and the sun and moon dimmed. Whoosh. Meanwhile, Lin Xian's body moved erratically like a ghost. He turned into countless afterimages and dodged the palm. Then, he arrived near the mighty figure and extended his palm. His 5 fingers formed a claw and bit down like a green dragon. The mighty figure also retreated, but the green dragon palm instantly turned into an ice dragon. It emitted a terrifying chill. In an instant, countless pieces of ice appeared around him. Frost spread under his feet and restricted his speed. The mighty figure felt that the blood in his body was about to freeze. Damn it! What kind of ice is this? Why is it so terrifying? Although he had seen how powerful Lin Xian was before, he did not think that a young man could fight against him. However, after exchanging blows with him, he could feel how terrifying his opponent was. That chill was truly shocking. 6 Directions Divine Fist. With a furious roar, the mighty figure waved his fist and resisted the surrounding ice. In an instant, the surrounding ice shattered. However, Lin Xian's palm landed mercilessly and grabbed the mighty figure's shoulder. Then he pressed down hard. With a crack, the mighty figure's bones broke. The terrifying chill instantly froze half of his body. You have a death wish. Seeing that, the mighty figure screamed in agony. Then, a hint of madness appeared in his eyes. The other party actually injured him in an instant. It was unforgivable. In the next moment he wanted to fight with his life. However, at that moment the third prince snorted and stopped. He could not stand it anymore. He said coldly, I'll give you the 3 herbs. Let's go. Next time, I won't let you get it so easily. To be honest, he did not want to give up on these 3 herbs. However, the power that Lin Xian displayed was truly shocking. This was especially true for his subordinate. Half of his body was already sealed in ice. If they continued to fight, he would most likely suffer even more injuries. Therefore he had no choice but to stop the battle. However, Su Chen sneered when he heard that. Do you think I'll stop just because you say so? Who do you think you are? Third prince, I'm not someone you've invited, so I don't need to listen to your orders. Lin Xian sneered. He was not moved at all. What? Hearing this, the surrounding people were stunned. Even Taoist Long and Lord of the Underworld twitched their mouths. The royal family elders in the Grand Imperial Hall also saw this scene. They too felt dizzy. Fuck, what kind of brat is this? He's too arrogant. How dare he directly challenge the third prince? The third prince's face was gloomy. He was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. He was a prince high and mighty. Moreover, his strength was ranked in the top 3 among the princes. Even the other princes had to be respectful and call him third brother when they saw him, let alone the other mighty figures. Even peerless geniuses like First Blade and Fist Tyrant had to work under him. Who dared to be rude to him? However, this brat in front of him dared to scold him? He even dared to openly defy him. This made the third prince explode with anger. The mighty figures around the third prince also had a change of expression. Then they all shouted, "How dare you? Brat, you're too presumptuous. Do you know who you're talking to?" Meanwhile, Lin Shen sneered. "Isn't he just a prince? He's your master, but he has nothing to do with me. Don't try to intimidate me with your words." After saying that, Lin Shen sneered and ignored him. Daoist Long and Lord of the Underworld also laughed when they heard that. Indeed, he's right. The third prince has nothing to do with us. Why you dare to be arrogant again? Don't blame me for being rude when we get out of here. The mighty figures around them wanted to say something, but the third prince waved his hand and stopped them. Then, his eyes turned cold and there was a hint of murderous intent in them. He stared at Lin Shen. "Brat, very well. You've successfully angered me. No one has ever dared to defy me like this. You're the first. I'll let you know the consequences of offending me. Feel free to teach me." Lin Shen turned his head and ignored Prince Huishan. That scene made the third prince explode with anger again. In the next moment, he almost vomited blood because Lin Shen looked at the captured mighty figure again and said coldly, "You're the one who's been captured. You'll have to pay a price if you want to take what's mine. Otherwise, I won't let you leave like this." A hint of murderous intent appeared in Lin Shen's eyes. "Damn it. What are you trying to do?" That mighty figure's face darkened. To be honest, he had wanted to resist and there was a possibility that he could. But now, while Lin Shen was talking to the third prince, Lin Shen did not stop. The cold energy in Lin Shen's body kept pouring into him, causing half of his body to be completely frozen. The spiritual energy and blood in his body were all frozen. It was impossible for him to resist even if he wanted to. He might have a chance if he didn't get seriously injured. But that was only a chance. Lin Shen smiled and looked at him. "Hand over a piece of divine crystal and I'll let you go." "What? Hand over a piece of divine crystal?" That mighty figure was stunned when he heard that. The other mighty figures were also stunned. "Damn, this is a robbery." "Brat, don't be too arrogant." They roared again, but Lin Shen sneered. "You're right, I'm robbing you. Why, do you really think that you don't have to pay a price for attacking me? Who do you think I am? That I can be bullied by you? If you want to attack me, you'll have to pay a painful price. One piece of divine crystal is not a small amount. I've already frozen half of your body. If you dare to attack me, I can guarantee that half of your body will turn into nothingness in an instant. By then, you might be able to hurt me or escape. But you'll definitely be seriously injured and your combat strength will be greatly reduced. Whether you can recover or not is still unknown. Do you think that one piece of divine crystal in exchange for half of your life is a lot?" Lin Shen ignored the others and said coldly, "I'll give you 5 seconds to consider. If you don't pay me the divine crystal in 5 seconds, I'll cripple half of your body." Overbearing, he's too overbearing. The aura that Lin Shen displayed at this moment had truly shocked everyone present. Even the elders of the royal family were speechless. He's a freaking bandit. He's a heavenly bandit. However, none of them dared to resist. Chapter 2133. Previously, they thought that Lin Shen did not speak much and was even a little taciturn. They thought that he had a good temper. But now it seemed that it was not the case at all. He probably could not be bothered with these people. As expected, when these people provoked him, they had to pay a painful price. The mighty one was sweating profusely. He knew that Lin Shen was right. If he attacked now, he might have a chance to seriously injure the other party, but he would definitely be half dead. He did not want to take such a risk, so he could only grit his teeth and take out a piece of green divine crystal. His heart was bleeding. That was because a piece of divine crystal was of great significance to him. He did not have many divine crystals in his entire fortune. Now that he had taken out one of them to buy his life, it really made his heart ache. However, there was nothing he could do. Very well. Lin Shen took the divine crystal, then pushed his palm and sent the mighty one flying. The mighty one quickly retreated and put some distance between them. At the same time he swallowed a pill. A wave of blazing lava surged out of his body and burned the ice. Soon he regained his mobility. Then his face darkened. He roared angrily and was about to attack. However, Lin Xian sneered. What? You still want to attack? However, capturing you this time is not something that can be settled with a piece of divine crystal. You have to think carefully. Buzz. Hearing that, the mighty one stopped in his tracks. His expression was extremely ugly. He gritted his teeth and his eyes flickered. In the end he snorted coldly. Kid, just you wait. This is not over. He did not attack. Instead he admitted defeat. The mighty ones on the third prince's side all widened their eyes. This was too illogical. No matter what, they had to fight for at least 300 rounds, killing each other to the death. However, that mighty one did not attack. What's going on? Could it be that this kid's strength is already enough to threaten elite mighty ones? They were extremely shocked, and the way they looked at Lin Xian changed again. Meanwhile, Lin Xian looked at the third prince and the others and sneered. You're welcome to attack me. However, prepare the divine crystals in advance to buy your life. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Hearing those words, the third prince and the mighty ones beside him vomited blood. Too arrogant. They had never met such an insolent person. However, the other party was so powerful. If they were to attack, Daoist Long and the Lord of the Underworld would not just stand by and watch. He would definitely help Lin Xian. Therefore, it was really not worth it to make a move now. Therefore, the third prince let out a cold sigh and ignored Lin Xian. He would remember this grudge. When he got out, he would gather all his subordinates and kill the other party. But for now it was better to look for treasures first. After which, the third prince led the group and strode forward, no longer paying any attention to Lin Xian and the other two. The third prince actually gave up? Inside the Grand Imperial Hall, the elders all cried out in surprise and disgust animatedly. Damn, how could he tolerate this? The third prince shouldn't be like this. This was completely out of character for him. That young man, had he already reached such a terrifying stage? Many people were shocked. However, the people on the eighth prince's side sneered. What third prince? So he's just a good-for-nothing. You don't have any courage at all. How could such a person become a prince? That's right, he's a disgrace to the royal family. This was a good opportunity to suppress the third prince's faction. How could they give it up? Immediately, waves of mockery and ridicule were heard. On the other hand, the third prince was hopping mad. Someone retorted, "What do you know? This is called forbearance. Considering the big picture. Do you understand? In ancient times, who wouldn't endure humiliation and take the big picture into consideration? What kind of ability is it to show off one's courage? The one who has the last laugh is the winner." The third prince's side quickly counterattacked. For a time, the hall was extremely noisy. The atmosphere became extremely tense as they opposed each other with equal harshness. In the dark canyon, the third prince and the others were indeed quickly leading the way. It was not that they were kind, but they wanted to snatch the treasures. If Lin Xian and the other two were in front, they would probably have to fight another big battle. The Lord of the Underworld and Daoist Long looked gloomy, but Lin Xian was very relaxed. "Kid, why aren't you anxious at all?" the Lord of the Underworld asked. He was very confused. "What's the hurry?" Lin Xian shrugged. "Let them lead the way first. Anyway, it's so dangerous here, let them take the risk. This way we'll be safe, but we won't have the chance to hide and take the treasures." "Is that so?" "Not necessarily." Lin Xian's lips curled into a smile. Soon, at this moment, exclamations could be heard from the third prince's side. It seemed that he had found something good again. Hearing these exclamations, the Lord of the Underworld and Daoist Long also focused their gazes and looked ahead like lightning. Then they exclaimed, "Earth Ganoderma, there's actually an Earth Ganoderma in front." "Earth Ganoderma?" Hearing this, Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. Then a smile appeared on his face. "Little White, you can take action now." Lin Xian sent a voice transmission. MMM. In the black earth, Little White Monkey began to cast a spell while holding the treasure basin. During this period of time, its strength had also increased. As long as there were no large array formations sealing the treasures, it could snatch them. Of course, if there was an array formation, it might be more troublesome. It would depend on how powerful the array formation was. If the array formation was more powerful than Little White Monkey, it would not be able to take the treasures out. Otherwise, it could be taken out. However, there did not seem to be any array formations around the Earth Ganoderma, so Lin Xian directly let Little White Monkey take action. Whoosh! In front, the third prince and the others were also delighted when they saw the earth Ganoderma. Among them, the red-robed elder walked forward and reached out to pluck the earth Ganoderma. However, before he could do anything, the earth Ganoderma in front of him suddenly disappeared, leaving only a root buried in the soil. What's going on? The red-robed elder was stunned. The third prince and all the other powerful beings around him were stunned as well. They then rubbed their eyes furiously. Where's the earth Ganoderma? Why is it gone? Damn it, it's really gone. The red-robed mighty figure walked forward and carefully checked. He realized that it was not a trick but someone had really plucked it. Damn it. Who is it? Who is it? The red-robed elder was furious. He looked around with a sharp gaze. It was like a sharp sword that quickly cut through the void. However, he did not find anyone suspicious. The third prince and the others also snorted coldly. They covered the entire cave with their soul power, but they did not find anything either. What's going on? They were very puzzled. In their opinion, if the treasure had been taken away, there must be an expert hiding in the surroundings. However, they could not find anything even with so many people checking. Could it be that the expert was so powerful that they could not detect him? Chapter 2134. There were so many of them but none of them found anything. Could it be that this expert was so powerful that they couldn't detect him? Or could it be that there was no expert, and there were other reasons for the disappearance of the earth Ganoderma? They couldn't figure it out, but their faces were gloomy and unhappy. Behind him, a red lingji appeared in Lin Xian's hand. However, he quickly put it away with a flip of his wrist. Taoist Master Long and the Lord of the Underworld were stunned. Although their eyes were focused in front of them, and they even used their soul power to detect the unknown mysterious expert. However, their shockwave still swept over to Lin Xian's side. They vaguely saw a collar appear in Lin Xian's hand. However, when they wanted to take a closer look, they realized that the Ganoderma in Lin Xian's hand had disappeared. What was going on? Could it be that this kid did it? The Lord of the Underworld and Taoist Master Long were also stunned. Furthermore, they recalled how Lin Xian had been following behind the third prince at a leisurely pace, looking very relaxed. They thought that it was very strange, but now it seemed that Lin Xian had some kind of secret technique that allowed him to take things from a distance. That was why he wasn't worried that the third prince and the others would take it away. This kid was too mysterious. The two of them were extremely shocked. Although they had lived for thousands of years, they had never seen such a mysterious young man. In front of them, the third prince and the others looked around but didn't find anyone suspicious. Finally, they turned around and fixed their eyes on Lin Xian and the others. If there was anyone suspicious, it would be the three people behind them. What are you looking at? Fight me if you don't like it. The Lord of the Underworld glared at the third prince and the others when they turned around. Hearing that, the third prince couldn't help but feel the blood in his body rushing to his head. He was about to go berserk. Since when did a mighty figure dare to talk back to him? However, he had endured for so long. If he lost his temper now, all his efforts would be in vain. Moreover, the other party wasn't simple. He knew that the Lord of the Underworld was a king of darkness, and he had a special bonus in the Dark Canyon. He didn't know how strong his combat power was. However, he still snorted coldly. I suspect that it was the three of you who did it. The three of you should obediently walk to the front. The third prince said in a deep voice. Because he couldn't see clearly at the back, if he let the three of them walk in front, he would be able to scout for danger. Secondly, if these people wanted to attack again, they would be able to discover it immediately. At that time he would definitely not let these people off. The Underworld King and Taoist Long immediately smiled when they heard that. They had wanted to go to the front for a long time. The corners of Su Chen's lips curled up as well. It didn't matter where it was. He didn't care. Therefore, in the next moment, the three of them strode forward. Haha, the feeling of walking at the front is different. What a wide field of vision. The Lord of the Underworld was extremely excited. He rubbed his large hands together and scanned the surroundings with lightning speed. On the side, Taoist Long also looked solemn. Clearly, they would not return empty-handed after coming to the front. At the very least, he had to obtain a large number of treasures. Lin Xian had a smile on his face, and a faint light flickered in his eyes. Since they were in front of him, he was even more direct. Because he had the eye technique and his powerful soul power, he could see further. Therefore, before the third prince and his men could discover the treasures in the distance, he had snowy white marquee pick them up from afar. The ones near him were the joint efforts of the Lord of the Underworld and Taoist Long. That was the dark demon metal. The Lord of the Underworld's eyes lit up. Then he reached out his palm and grabbed in front of him. Behind him, the third prince and his men also noticed this and quickly took action. The Lord of the Underworld roared, "Get lost, all of you." As he spoke, 2 purple wings appeared on his back. They turned into heavenly swords and swept out. Clang. Then it collided with the mighty figures behind him, making an earth-shattering sound. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the Lord of the Underworld's hand grabbed the dark demon metal and put it away. The faces of the mighty figures behind him turned green with anger. What a joke. How could they allow these people to take away the treasures that they found? Therefore in the next moment they all roared, "Damn it, hand it over." The Lord of the Underworld sneered, "Hand it over? What a joke. Didn't we agree to rely on our own abilities? If I get it, it's mine." These people were so anxious that they almost vomited blood. Previously, when the 3 of them were at the back, they couldn't get anything. Now that the 3 of them were at the front, they couldn't get anything either. Could it be that the 3 of them were sent by the heavens to restrain them? The third prince's face was also gloomy, and the murderous intent in his eyes was about to explode. In the end, he gritted his teeth and said, "Let's split up and search in different directions." He finally changed his strategy. Instead of searching in groups, he spread out in small groups. That way they would have more places to search. As expected, they also found some treasures. However, the real treasures had long been taken away by Lin Xian. What they had now were things that Lin Xian didn't care about. Indeed, during this period of time, Lin Xian had obtained a lot of spiritual herbs, ores and metals. The metals could be used to refine treasures, and the spiritual herbs could be used to refine pills. They could increase the cultivation levels of Lin Xian, the little white monkey and the dark red dragon. Soon they continued to go deeper, but there was no path ahead. It was blocked by a door. Seeing this, the third prince and the others became excited. Because this meant that there was an entrance in front. Perhaps it was the entrance to the ancient ruins. Even Lin Xian and the other 2's eyes were burning with passion. The elders of the Grand Imperial Hall cried out in surprise when they saw this scene. They were looking forward to it. After all, no one had ever entered the ruins. The 2 stone doors in front of them were abnormally simple, and there were mysterious runes engraved on them. Although the light was dim and would extinguish at any time, the aura coming from them was abnormally heavy. It made them feel a sense of trepidation. This was energy that had existed for countless years. It was hard to imagine how terrifying the person who had set up this energy back then was. Attack together. The third prince took a deep breath and gave the order. Boom, boom. The third prince's powerful figures stood in a row and quickly attacked. The violent attacks blasted on the ancient stone doors, causing shocking collisions. However, the runes on the stone doors shone, forming a vortex that diluted all the violent energy. Then everything returned to normal. The stone doors did not change at all. What? How could this be? Seeing this, the third prince and the others were stunned, and their faces turned ugly. The elders in the Grand Imperial Hall frowned as they watched the scene through the light screen. As expected of the ruins of the Dark Canyon. It was indeed mysterious. Chapter 2135. As expected of the ruins of the Dark Canyon. It was incomparably mysterious. That's right, I wonder if these people can open it? The third prince's gaze was gloomy. He quickly looked at Lin Xian and the other 2 and said, "Let's attack together. Otherwise you won't be able to enter." "All right." Taoist Master Long nodded. Now was indeed the time to work together. Taoist Master Long and the other 2 also joined in. Then those terrifying powerhouses attacked again. Violent energy violently blasted forward. Even the third prince did not stay idle and attacked as well. Boom, boom, boom. Shocking energy exploded, and the void was instantly torn apart. However, the stone door in front of them did not budge at all. It seemed to have withstood everyone's attacks. "Damn it, open." Everyone roared again and increased their strength. The runes on the stone door also began to tremble. It was obvious that it could not withstand the power anymore. The stone door also rumbled as if it was about to open at any moment. However, it did not open in the end. It seemed that they were still lacking a little. "Damn it. No, they're still lacking a little." Everyone retracted their hands with ugly expressions. They had already used their terrifying power. They had not opened it yet. Could it be that they had to use their trump cards to open the stone door? However, if they used their trump cards now, wouldn't they be exposing themselves? Therefore they were in a dilemma for a moment. However, at that moment, a sneer came from behind. "So what if I join in?" "Who is it?" Hearing that, everyone's hair stood on end and their hearts turned cold. There's someone. Someone is indeed hiding nearby. Previously, they even suspected that it was Lin Xian and the others who had secretly stolen the treasure. However, it seemed that it was very likely not the case. It was very likely that the mysterious powerhouse was hiding in the dark. Now that the door could not be opened, the mysterious powerhouse could no longer hold back and was finally about to appear. The third prince was extremely shocked, while Lin Xian and Taoist Master Long were even more shocked. They did not expect that there would be a hidden powerhouse here. In the Grand Imperial Hall, the Imperial clan's elders also cried out in alarm. What? There's someone else? Who is it? How did they come in? Is it a powerhouse invited from the outside, or a creature from the dark canyon? When they thought of the latter possibility, they gasped and a look of shock appeared in their eyes. But soon they were stunned. That was because they saw a golden figure walk out of the light screen. While they were stunned, the third prince and Lin Xian were also stunned, because they realized that they actually knew this mysterious person. Golden Lion King, it's actually you? The third prince cried out in surprise. Then, his eyes became extremely solemn. The Golden Lion King was a subordinate of the first prince. Now that it was here, did that mean that the first prince was here as well? The Almighties behind him also looked as if they were facing a great enemy. Even Lin Xian and the other two looked serious, because the Golden Lion King was indeed an incomparably terrifying opponent. Moreover, the other party's background was extremely mysterious. He was a war race genius. More importantly, they didn't know if this fellow had come alone or with the first prince's subordinates. However, after looking around, they heaved a sigh of relief. That was because they discovered that other than the Golden Lion King, no one else appeared. This meant that it wasn't the first prince who brought people to kill their way in. Instead, it was the Golden Lion King who came in by himself. But thinking of this, their scalps still went numb. He actually dared to enter the dark canyon alone and even managed to come here. Wasn't this Golden Lion King a little too terrifying? Facing everyone's gazes, the Golden Lion King didn't care at all. His tall figure emitted a sun-like radiance, illuminating the surrounding darkness. He was like a war god, bringing with him a strong sense of oppression. Let's work together to break open this stone door. The Golden Lion King spoke in a deep voice. It didn't seem like he was discussing with everyone, but rather, he seemed to be giving an order. Hearing this, everyone was unhappy. Which one of them here wasn't a peerless character? Why would they be ordered by a young man? The Almighties under the third prince were also unhappy. Lin Xian's eyes flickered as he stared at the Golden Lion King. He was a peerless genius and the other party was also a peerless genius. Moreover, both of them had a perfect record in the first round. He felt a little regretful that they didn't fight in the first round. Seeing the other party, Lin Xian felt the blood in his body boiling. Naturally, the Golden Lion King also felt Lin Xian's gaze. He then turned his head, and a golden radiance burst out from his eyes. It was like a golden sword, slicing through the void. Buzz, boom, boom, boom. Their gazes clashed in the air, creating an intense explosion. Countless black cracks appeared in the void. Then, a black hole appeared between the two of them, showing signs of expanding. Seeing this scene, the Almighties gasped and shock appeared in their eyes. These two youngsters, don't look at their young age, their strength was really too powerful. At this moment, the energy emitted by the two of them made them feel a chill down their spines. In the Grand Imperial Hall, the elders were all excited when they saw this scene. These were two top young geniuses. If they were to fight, what kind of scene would it be? They were even looking forward to it. Overestimating themselves. On the other hand, the Empress snorted, and a trace of disdain appeared in her eyes. The Golden Lion King was personally invited by her. He was a genius of the war race and it could be said that he was born for battle. He was extremely strong. No matter how strong Lin Xian was, how could he be compared to the Golden Lion King? Dark canyon in front of the stone door. The aura from the two of them was getting stronger and stronger, and it looked like an even more intense collision was about to happen. However, at this moment, the third prince stood out. He sighed and then said in a deep voice, "The two of you please stop. Now is not the time to fight. Let's work together and break the stone door first." To be honest, he also hoped that the two of them would fight now because they weren't his subordinates. It would be best if both of them were injured. But now he should focus on the big picture. He was eager to know what kind of treasure was hidden behind the stone door. Therefore, after weighing the pros and cons, the third prince decided to work together to open the stone door first. The Golden Lion King snorted and retracted his gaze. On the other side, Lin Xian's aura also receded like the tide, and it returned to calmness. In the next moment, everyone made their move. Boom, boom. The stone door trembled. This time, it trembled even more violently. Then a crack appeared on the stone door, and the two doors opened completely. It opened. It finally opened. Chapter 2136. Even the elders in the Grand Imperial Hall were excited, let alone them. However, Lin Xian and the others were not in a hurry to enter. They had been to countless ruins and knew that it was extremely dangerous inside. Therefore, they first put on their armor and even surrounded themselves with their king's domain. After all the defenses were set up, they entered. This was the dark canyon, which was 100 times more dangerous than outside. They had to be careful. Otherwise, they would not even know how they died. However, when they entered, they were a little stunned. Because along the way they did not receive any attacks at all, nor did they encounter any formations. This left them in a daze. One had to know that in other ruins, there would be a terrifying formation or attack after taking 2 steps. However, it was calm and peaceful now. This silence made them feel even more uneasy. It had to be said that it was very magical inside because they realized that it was a world of its own. Indeed, as they walked, they felt that the scene under their feet had changed. It was no longer a cave, but an island floating in the sky. The surroundings were no longer dark, but white clouds and immortal fog. In front of them, the palaces and pavilions were emitting resplendent light. Those who did not know better would think that they had arrived at a paradise. The third prince and the others were dumbfounded. Lin Xian was also extremely surprised. The royal family elders stared with their eyes wide open in disbelief. They did not expect that there would be such a magical ruin in the dark canyon. Which peerless powerhouse had left it behind? We're rich. We're rich. Ah! Those mighty figures cheered excitedly. From the looks of it, no one had been here before. Moreover, it was definitely the wealth left behind by a peerless powerhouse. There were definitely countless natural treasures inside. If they could get some, they would definitely be rich. Taoist Master Long and the Netherworld King also took a deep breath. Their eyes were filled with joy. At the side, the Golden Lion King revealed a smile. Lin Xian's eyes flickered as he looked around. He had already summoned Little White. Once he found a treasure, he would immediately take action. As expected, the mighty figures under the third prince could not wait and quickly rushed forward. Boom, boom. At this moment, the surroundings changed. In the sky, the clouds rumbled and formed thunderclouds. Then they came crashing down rapidly. The terrifying lightning was like a wild snake, instantly enveloping those mighty figures. Damn it! Get lost! A powerful being roared towards the sky and spat out flames to resist the lightning above. Some mighty figures waved their mountain-like palms in front of them. The sound of an intense collision was heard. Then the few powerful beings retreated with gloomy expressions. Because the power of the lightning was truly too terrifying. In particular, the thunderclouds above continued to bombard the sky as if it was a heavenly tribulation. This made the third prince, Taoist Long, and the others gasp. What kind of energy was this? Could it really be a heavenly tribulation? It seemed that they still needed to work together. The third prince's expression was solemn. However, the Golden Lion King merely laughed coldly. There was no need for that. Since they were already here, they would rely on their own abilities. As he spoke, he strode forward. Following his actions, a terrifying thundercloud also condensed above him and enveloped the Golden Lion King. Then the sky full of thunder and lightning poured down. At this moment, the Golden Lion King also made its move. Golden light erupted from his body and swept out in all directions like the sun. Boom! With a punch, the golden fist tore the world apart and crashed into the thunder and lightning in the sky. Suddenly, a huge black hole appeared. What? So terrifying. Seeing this scene, everyone sucked in a mouthful of cold air. This Golden Lion King was too frightening. It actually shattered such a frightening lightning with a single punch. One must know that even elite powerful beings would find it hard to resist this kind of thunder and lightning. However, the Golden Lion King shattered it with just a raise of his hand. Didn't this mean that the opponent's strength had already surpassed that of elite powerful beings? Heavens, what level had he reached? Was this the strength of the war tribe? It was too terrifying. Not to mention the third prince and the others, even the elders in the Grand Imperial Hall were extremely shocked. The war tribe was extremely mysterious. They had already gone into seclusion 10,000 years ago. Who would have thought that they would come out again? However, the Golden Lion King's strength had left them extremely shocked. The sky full of thunder and lightning poured down and enveloped the Golden Lion King. However, the Golden Lion King's body emitted a golden radiance. The image of a lion circled around him, resisting the terrifying thunder and lightning. Then he took a step forward and walked forward. Damn it. Let's do it too. Seeing this scene, the third prince also shouted in anger. The powerful beings around him quickly gathered together and worked together to resist the thunder and lightning in the sky. Lin Xian's side also made a move. On Lin Xian's body, the dragon sword domain appeared and enveloped him. On the other side, Daoist Long and the Netherworld King also used their king domains and walked forward. In the sky, violent thunder and lightning descended and directly pierced through the void. That terrifying thunder and lightning made the scalps of these powerful beings numb. They even suspected that if they couldn't withstand it and were struck by the thunder and lightning, would they be directly pierced through? However, fortunately, they didn't encounter any danger along the way. They finally managed to avoid the terrifying heavenly tribulation by a hair's breadth. Everyone's face was pale. When they turned around, they realized that they had only walked about 100 meters. On the ground of 100 meters, there were blue lines that looked like thunder and lightning. Could it be that it was because of these paths that the heavenly tribulation condensed? These people were extremely shocked. As expected of the ancient ruins, it was indeed incomparably mysterious. This made them even more careful. Fortunately, after walking for more than 100 meters, there was a palace in front of them. It was a 6-story pavilion. It was very simple and unadorned, but there was no dust on it. Instead, it was overflowing with light. Boom. The Golden Lion King took the lead. He opened the door and walked in. The people behind him also saw the situation inside and exclaimed in surprise. Supreme grade spirit medicine. A peerless treasure saber. The cauldron was still emitting smoke. Could there be immortal pills in there? Everyone was extremely shocked because they realized that in the center of the hall on the first floor, there was a huge cauldron. It was more than 3 meters tall, and there were exquisite patterns carved on it that were vivid and lifelike. What shocked them even more was that there were wisps of white smoke coming out of the cauldron. Although they weren't alchemists, they had seen alchemy before. It was exactly the same as the scene in front of them. Could it be that someone was still refining pills in there? Thinking of this, they were extremely vigilant and looked around cautiously. However, they didn't find anyone. But what was with the white smoke? Could it be that the owner of this ruin refined pills? Thinking of this, they were even more stunned. No matter what, this ruin should have existed for thousands of years or even tens of thousands of years, but the pills were still being refined. Chapter 2137. Inside the Grand Imperial Hall, the royal elders were all extremely shocked when they saw this scene. Even the emperor and the empress were shocked. To be honest, they were also very confused. What kind of existence was this? However, at this moment, the Golden Lion King snorted coldly. Then he stretched out a huge golden hand and grabbed in front of him. The void trembled and spiritual energy gathered in the sky. A huge golden palm covered the sky and covered the alchemy furnace. Seeing this scene, the third prince and the others exclaimed, "Damn it! Put down the alchemy furnace." They were too shocked. This alchemy furnace was a supreme treasure. It was very likely that there were top-grade pills inside. Who knew what magical effects it would have? However, it was definitely not simple. Therefore, how could they allow the Golden Lion King to succeed? Although the Golden Lion King was powerful, he was only one person. Therefore, the third prince gave the order to attack. Immediately, the three almighties attacked together to snatch the fiery red alchemy furnace. "You dare to attack me? You are courting death." The Golden Lion King was also furious. He snorted coldly and a sharp light shone in his eyes. Then a powerful and terrifying aura surged from his body. The power in the sky clashed in the air, forming a terrifying energy wave. On the other side, Daoist Long and the Lord of the Underworld also looked serious. They were also very interested in the fiery red alchemy furnace. Then the Lord of the Underworld asked, "Kid, why don't we attack together?" Lin Xian's eyes flickered. He did not answer immediately. Instead he frowned. Actually, he did not need the Lord of the Underworld to tell him. When he first came in, he had already noticed the alchemy furnace in front of him. When he saw the white smoke coming out of the alchemy furnace, he was even more shocked. He was different from these people. Not only was he powerful, but he was also an alchemist. Naturally, he knew what it meant to have white smoke coming out of the alchemy furnace. Therefore, he quickly sent a voice transmission to the little white monkey to attack. The little white monkey used Treasure Bowl to try to snatch the pills inside the alchemy furnace. However, it failed. This result surprised Lin Xian. How could it fail? Could it be that there was a powerful array around the alchemy furnace? But that should not be. If there was really a restriction array, he should be able to sense it. However, he did not sense any dangerous aura. The little white monkey also tried again, but it still could not take out anything. Not sure what to do, the snow-white monkey began to transmit its voice to Lin Xian, as if it wanted to express something. When Lin Xian heard this, he frowned. Are you saying that this is fake? Woo-woo. Hearing that Lin Xian understood, the little white monkey nodded in the black earth. Fake. This made Lin Xian even more confused. In the next moment, a trace of golden light appeared in his eyes. Everyone's eyes were on the cauldron, so he secretly activated his heavenly secret god eyes. Soon he was stunned. This was because he discovered that under the gaze of his heavenly secret divine eyes, there was nothing in front of him. It didn't exist. It didn't exist at all. There was no pill furnace in front of him, only an empty space. This greatly shocked Lin Xian. Illusion. This was the first thing that came to his mind. But soon after he was puzzled. This illusion was too realistic. Even these elite powerhouses, including the Golden Lion King, were all fooled. In fact, even he had been deceived by it. One must know that his soul was very powerful, and he was also very proficient in illusion. But he did not expect to be deceived. If not for his heavenly secret god eyes, he would not have been able to detect it. Now, the third prince, the Golden Lion King, and the others did not notice anything strange. This was enough to show how terrifying this illusion was. After knowing that it was an illusion, Lin Xian quickly withdrew his heavenly secret god eyes. At this moment, he heard the Lord of the Underworld's question. Then Lin Xian shook his head, showing a look of disinterest. Then he started to look in other directions. This was because there were not only cauldrons but also other things in the surroundings. Seeing that Lin Xian had given up, the Lord of the Underworld was stunned. But then he sighed. He and Daoist Long did not make a move because they were not confident. Besides, the Golden Lion King had already started fighting with the third prince, and they could watch the battle. Who knew, they might even be able to benefit from it. So the two of them waited at the side. In front of them, a great battle had broken out. The Golden Lion King stood there like a god of war. He waved his golden palm and slapped it in all directions. That palm was like the hand of a demon god, emitting thousands of rays of light. When he waved it gently, the entire space shook. On the other hand, the three elite almighties were extremely shocked. They were all powerful almighties, but now, the three of them were unable to do anything to the Golden Lion King. It was really unbelievable. The third prince also had a serious expression. He realized that the Golden Lion King was too terrifying. Could it be that the people of the war tribe were also terrifying? They could fight against three elite almighties alone? Scram. At this moment, the Golden Lion King shouted. His voice was like thunder, shaking the void. Then he clenched his hand into a fist and punched out. The space trembled and the golden fist rushed out like a god, letting out a terrifying howl. That light illuminated the world, and the terrifying energy instantly pushed the three elite almighties back. What? Too terrifying. At this moment, the royal elders who were watching the battle exclaimed. Because the Golden Lion King was too terrifying. After the three almighties were pushed back, the Golden Lion King stretched out his palm and covered the red pill furnace in front of him. This is mine. The Golden Lion King had a smug smile on his face. Seeing this scene, the third prince and the others had a huge change in expression. On the other side, Daoist Long and the Netherworld King also frowned. Their plan to reap the benefits of the battle had failed. Because they also did not expect the Golden Lion King to be so powerful. However, in the next moment, everyone was stunned. On the third prince's side, Daoist Long and the royal elders were all stunned. It was as if they had seen a ghost and their minds were blank. Even the Golden Lion King was stunned. The smile on his face disappeared, and it was replaced by a gloomy expression and a dense killing intent in his eyes. This was because the red pill furnace that he had grabbed had actually disappeared in an instant. That incomparably exquisite red and translucent stone furnace turned into a wisp of white smoke and dissipated with the wind. It disappeared? What happened? Everyone was stunned. The Golden Lion King's gaze was like a sharp sword, piercing through the void. He roared and the surrounding sky collapsed. Who is it? Void God Realm Ghost, get out here. There was a terrifying killing intent in his voice. However, no one answered him. The entire pill furnace had completely disappeared as if it had never appeared. How could this be? Chapter 2138. Damn it. Immortal pill. My immortal pill. Who took my immortal pill? They were indeed furious. After all, it was an immortal pill that had existed for tens of thousands of years. If they ate one, they might be able to break through and become a supreme expert. They might even have the chance to become an invincible king. This was a huge opportunity. Whoever obtained it would be able to defy the heavens and change their fate. However, such a great opportunity had actually disappeared right in front of their eyes. How could they accept this? Not to mention them, even the elders of the royal family were stunned. They exclaimed, "What was going on? Who got it? It just disappeared?" This was too strange. What exactly was going on? Do you know? Everyone was discussing. But in the end, they did not understand either. Therefore, for a moment, many of the elders of the royal family looked forward. The ones sitting above were naturally the emperor and the empress. They did not understand, but the emperor should be able to understand. Could it be an illusion technique? An elder asked. The others also nodded. It was very possible. Yes, it was definitely an illusion technique. However, this illusion technique was too brilliant. It even deceived all of them. That Golden Lion King, as a genius of the war race, was also deceived? What kind of illusion technique was this? However, at this moment the emperor's eyes flickered. He said in a deep voice. It was not an illusion technique, but a remnant image. What, a remnant image? Hearing this, the elders were all stunned. This was completely different from an illusion technique. Illusion techniques were a type of mental attack used to deceive the soul of a person, making them think that it was real. However, the remaining images were different. It was not an illusion technique, but a real existence. It was just that it was preserved in some way. It was equivalent to recording something that had happened before. Could it be that the pill furnace from before was real? A supreme expert was refining pills. However, it was not now. It was the scene of refining pills thousands or even tens of thousands of years ago. It was left in the void. How heaven-defying must one be to be able to do this? Although these people were also very powerful and some of them were even peerless almighties, they still couldn't do this. They could split mountains and seas, but to preserve the scene of their previous life for thousands or even tens of thousands of years, they could not do it even if they were beaten to death. Perhaps, even an invincible king might not be able to do it. Could it be that this was left behind by a saint? Thinking of this possibility, they became even more excited. The things left behind by the saints were sacred relics. It wasn't common in the central continent either. Who would have thought that the dark canyon would actually contain the remains of a saint? These elders were all incomparably excited, as if they had been injected with chicken blood. They couldn't wait to charge into the dark canyon and see the saints' ruins for themselves. Although the Golden Lion King and the others did not know what was in the ancient remnant, it was left behind by a sage. However, they guessed that it should be an illusion, so their faces were gloomy. Originally, they were here to hunt for treasures, but they didn't expect to be tricked the moment they entered. This made them very unhappy. Therefore, in the next moment, they angrily searched everywhere. Since the pill furnace list wasn't real, then the other items should be real. At this moment, they were shocked. That was because there was an extremely powerful ripple in front of them. Then they all looked over. Lin Xian stood in front of a shelf. With a wave of his hand, he pulled out a long blue saber. The blade light was like a star emitting blue light. Then it swayed gently and tore through the void. An Earth-rank supreme-grade treasure. Seeing this scene, everyone widened their eyes and stared at the long blue saber with bloodshot eyes. They did not expect that there would be a treasure here. Taoist Master Long and the Lord of the Underworld were also stunned. They did not expect Lin Xian to leave so quickly and look for other things. Could it be that he already knew that the immortal pills in front of him were fake? Thinking of this, they were extremely shocked. Now that they saw Lin Xian pull out a supreme-grade Earth-rank treasure, they were even more surprised. At this moment, on the third prince's side, an old man in blue roared angrily, "Kid, hand over the treasure saber." This old man was an elite mighty figure and a saber wielder. How could he not be tempted when he saw a supreme-grade treasure saber? Therefore, in the next moment, he quickly waved his arm, and a saber light slashed forward like lightning. Lin Xian snorted coldly and suddenly turned around. He waved the supreme-grade treasure saber in his hand and shot out an even more terrifying saber light that tore through the void. It shattered the opponent's attack. Otherwise, the saber light turned into a shocking dragon and slashed out fiercely. Boom! Boom! The old man screamed and was directly sent flying. A terrifying saber mark appeared on his body. Blood splattered and dyed the sky red. Seeing this scene, everyone's scalps went numb and they were extremely shocked. They looked at Lin Xian with fear in their eyes. Although they were greedy and wanted to seize the supreme-grade treasure saber, this scene really shocked them. Being able to send an elite mighty figure flying with a single saber strike was absolutely terrifying. Damn it, this kid is already very strong. Now that he has a supreme-grade treasure saber, his combat strength will increase by a level. The third prince's face was also gloomy. In the next moment he said, "Ignore him and quickly look for other places. There must be more than one treasure here." Hearing that, the other mighty figures moved one after another. They no longer dared to have any ideas about Lin Xian's treasure saber. For a time, the other mighty figures moved in all directions and searched thoroughly. Another supreme-grade treasure. Heavens! That's a top-tier cultivation technique. Everyone looked around and cried out in surprise. They began to tremble with excitement. "We're rich. We're definitely rich this time. I didn't expect to see such supreme-grade items everywhere." Lin Xian ignored the others. His gaze was like lightning as he walked forward again. There he found a few red pill bottles and a few scrolls. Come to think of it, they should be pills and pill formulas. Those are ancient pills. Everyone was excited again. After searching for so long, other than weapons and cultivation techniques, this was the first time they had found pills. Therefore, for a moment, everyone's gaze gathered on Lin Xian again. One of the old men also obtained an earth-grade treasure saber. Then he sneered and quickly charged over. Although Lin Xian had displayed powerful combat strength previously, he was confident that he would not lose to his opponent now that he had a supreme-grade treasure saber. Therefore, in the next moment he quickly attacked Lin Xian. Lin Xian sneered. With a wave of his hand, he stored all the pills and pill formulas into the black earth. Buzz! The old man had already charged over. The red long saber in his hand rushed over like a red lightning bolt, emitting a terrifying light. In an instant it enveloped Lin Xian. "Go to hell, kid." Chapter 2139. Lin Xian suddenly turned around, and a sharp aura erupted from his eyes. He would attack the blue saber in his hand. Buzz! Crack! The saber light exploded like lightning. The two top-notch sabers collided with each other, producing a shocking explosion. The void split open and a crack appeared and spread in all directions. As for the old man that had attacked, he was directly knocked flying and crashed into the stone pillar. The stone pillar shattered and the void collapsed. The old man vomited blood and fell to the ground with a terrified expression. "How could this be? That's impossible." The old man roared crazily. He also had a supreme-grade saber in his hand, and his weapon was not inferior to his opponent's. However, how could he be sent flying by his opponent? Could it be that his opponent was stronger than him? He could not accept that fact. He struggled to get up and held the red supreme-grade saber, wanting to attack again. However, at that moment, the entire pavilion began to shake as if there was an earthquake. What happened? Is this place going to collapse? Damn it! What happened? The others were also extremely shocked. They had finally found the location of the treasure, but it was about to be destroyed. I can't accept this. However, there were still huge rocks rolling down around them. There were even terrifying rays of light that tore through the void. It seemed that if they did not leave they would be killed. Therefore those people did not dare to delay and flew into the sky. Lin Xian was also puzzled. He tore through the void and went outside. In the next moment, Taoist Master Long and the Lord of the Underworld appeared beside him. The two of them looked happy. Clearly they had also obtained some treasures. However, when they came out they were stunned. They found that the entire island was shaking violently. In the depths of the island, a ray of light shot into the sky like a heavenly pillar and tore through the void. It created a huge void and a black hole quickly churned. That light is so terrifying. Everyone looked into the distance in shock. Is the apocalyptic divine light about to appear? Their hearts trembled. That aura was too powerful. Even the supreme-grade saber that Lin Xian had just obtained began to tremble. It was not only the saber in his hand. The supreme-grade treasures that the others obtained were also trembling rapidly. What's going on? For a moment, everyone was stunned. In the Grand Imperial Hall, when the elders of the royal family saw that scene through the light screen, they were extremely shocked. Then they all exclaimed, "That light? That's a phenomenon of heaven and earth. Could it be that a shocking treasure has appeared? That must be it. Heavens! The luck of the third prince and the others was way too good, to be able to find such a shocking treasure on their first visit." Everyone was shocked and the eyes of a few elders flickered. Even the best quality treasured saber was trembling. Could it be that a heaven-grade weapon was about to appear? The power of this sky-piercing light pillar still exceeded Lin Xian and the others' expectations. It pierced through the sky and directly struck the void. Soon, a sharp beam of light streaked across the dark canyon. It was the beam of light that reached the heavens. However, the dark canyon was unable to conceal the sharpness of the sky-piercing light pillar. Very quickly, the sky-piercing light pillar pierced through heaven and earth. This kind of phenomenon caused a huge commotion. Around the pillar of light, multicolored lights swirled and rainbows danced. It was a very strange sight. What's that? Outside the dark valley, the eighth prince and the others who were sitting cross-legged suddenly opened their eyes. They looked at the huge light pillar in front of them in shock. What a terrifying phenomenon of heaven and earth. A peerless treasure is about to appear this time. Some mighty figures exclaimed. However, it's really surprising that it's in the dark valley. Only one group of people had entered the dark valley. No one knew what was inside. They did not expect that such a phenomenon of heaven and earth would appear now. Could it be related to Lin Xian and the others? After all, they might have entered some ancient ruins. That's possible. The mighty figures around the eighth prince discussed. In the end, they guessed that the phenomenon of heaven and earth might be related to Lin Xian and the others. But then they all turned their heads to look at the eighth prince. Their eyes were filled with anticipation. Among them, an elder said quickly, "Eighth prince, should we go in and take a look?" Yes, that light is definitely the birth of a heaven-defying treasure. This is definitely a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The eighth prince's eyes flickered. To be honest, he also knew that he had never seen such a phenomenon of heaven and earth before. He thought that something shocking must have appeared. However, he was struggling in his heart. Because the dark valley was very dangerous, he did not have the confidence to win. If he suffered any losses, he would be teleported out and have no chance to compete for the position of crown prince. Therefore, after pondering for a moment, the eighth prince gritted his teeth and said, "We won't go in." What? Hearing this, the mighty figures around him were stunned. Some of them even became anxious. "Eight Huanzi, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If we get it, our strength will increase tremendously. Even the first prince won't be able to stop us." The group of people tried to persuade him. However, the eighth prince's eyes became more and more determined. He said in a deep voice, "There is indeed a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity inside. However, the dark valley is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. After entering, there is an 80% chance of dying. This is definitely not good for the position of crown prince. Therefore, I have decided not to go in." At this moment, the eighth prince was very calm. He was not affected by the phenomenon of heaven and earth. Instead, he chose the safest and most reliable method. When the mighty figures around him heard this, they fell silent. Indeed, although the treasure was good, the dark valley was even more dangerous. They were not confident that they could enter safely. "All right then, I can only hope that Lin Xian and the other two will be able to obtain this heaven-defying treasure." Then, the mighty figures sat down cross-legged again and waited quietly. However, it was not only the eighth prince who saw it. This pillar of light was so dazzling that even the princes who were tens of thousands of miles away could see it. Heavens, what is that? A phenomenon of heaven and earth? It actually triggered a phenomenon of heaven and earth. This is the sign of a peerless treasure appearing. Let's go and take a look. When the princes saw this scene, they were all excited. Then they led the elite mighty figures around them and rushed in that direction. When the first prince saw this scene, the corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. "Haha, this prince is really lucky. I actually encountered this once-in-a-lifetime phenomenon. Since this is the case, how could I miss it? Men, let's go." Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. After that, these people turned into long streaks of light and streaked across the sky, flying rapidly in the direction of Lin Feng's location. Of course, not every prince showed great interest in the phenomenon of heaven and earth. Among them, the fourth prince looked into the distance and frowned. As for the mighty figures around him, they were all very excited. Chapter 2140. Fourth prince, let's go too. However, the fourth prince snorted coldly. "No, that direction is the dark canyon. I'm guessing that it's something inside the dark canyon. It's a dangerous place. Going in is suicide. Let them fight for it. We'll take this opportunity to explore the other ruins." After saying that, he turned around and left in the opposite direction with his people. The people outside were getting restless. Inside the dark canyon there was a strange scene. Especially the ancient ruins where Lin Xian and the others were. Ever since the light pillar appeared, it did not disappear. Instead, it spread rapidly. The floating island was completely shrouded in multicolored light. Thousands of multicolored lights hung down like divine rainbows. It was shocking. The most excited people were the third prince and the others. That was because they were the closest. Therefore, in the next moment, the third prince led these powerhouses and quickly ran forward. On the other side, the Golden Lion King snorted coldly and took a step forward. Like a stream of light, it tore through the void. Let's go too. Taoist Master Long's eyes flickered. He took a deep breath and moved. Lin Xian followed behind, but the light in his eyes became sharper and sharper. Ka-ka-ka. Boom boom boom. However, this path was not easy to walk. Not long after they ran, another bolt of thunder appeared in the sky and crashed down. Obviously, it wanted to stop them from going forward. However, it could not stop them from going forward. After all, the phenomenon in front of them was too dazzling. Therefore, in the next moment, these people roared and fought against the heavenly tribulation in the sky. Purple Demon Saber. An old man roared and waved the supreme grade saber in his hand. Suddenly, an incomparably terrifying purple saber light surged out quickly. Then it tore through the sky and slashed forward. Boom. As the saber slashed down, a huge crack appeared in the lightning that filled the sky. On the other side, the Golden Lion King also snorted coldly and clapped his hands. A huge golden palm soared into the sky. Wherever it passed, the lightning was completely shattered. Lin Xian also attacked with all his might. Lin Xian held a supreme-grade saber in his hand and slashed out beams of light. The power of this saber was extremely terrifying. It directly caused the entire void to collapse. Taoist Long and the Underworld King also made their moves. On the other side, the third prince and the others were also roaring furiously, attacking the thunder that filled the sky with all their might. Finally, they slowly advanced through the countless bolts of lightning. After an intense battle, they avoided the terrifying heavenly tribulation and arrived at the depths of the floating island. There was a bluestone path that led straight inside. From the looks of it, this should be the passage. However, the few of them frowned. The reason for that was because they discovered that the aura of lightning contained within the bluestone path had become even more frightening. In fact, it was even more terrifying than the previous heavenly tribulations. Damn it, what kind of place is this? How can there be such terrifying lightning energy? A higher being's expression was quite grim because he felt his hair stand on end. It was as if the lightning ahead could threaten his life. If you're afraid of death, then scram. There was no need for trash here. At this moment, the Golden Lion King coldly snorted. What did you say? He was actually reprimanded by a young man. That powerful being was immediately enraged. However, the Golden Lion King only sneered. What? Am I wrong? You can't even withstand this little bit of lightning and you still want to snatch the treasure? I really don't know if water entered your brain. Also, have your 1,000 years of cultivation been wasted on a pig's body? After saying that, he snorted coldly and ignored that powerful being. Instead, he directly walked forward. Boom. As he took a step forward, the bluestone path in front of him flickered with an incomparable radiance. Countless runes quickly lit up. After that, bluestone lightning intertwined in the air, forming a human figure made of lightning. That human figure made of lightning was extremely frightening. It had completely surpassed the heavenly tribulation from before. The moment it appeared, it roared ferociously and quickly charged toward the Golden Lion King. What was that? A human-shaped lightning. At the back, the adults exclaimed in surprise. Even Lin Xian frowned. The third prince, Taoist Long, and the others all had grave expressions. The Golden Lion King sneered. A trace of coldness appeared on his handsome face. Then he clenched his fist and punched out. A mere lightning spirit dares to be arrogant in front of me? The Golden Lion King sneered in disdain. Light bloomed in his eyes. He clenched his right hand into a fist and punched out like a lion. Boom. This punch caused the entire space to distort. All the lightning in the sky was blown away. The frightening power surged forward like an avalanche. Boom. That human-shaped lightning also roared and quickly punched out with his palm. Suddenly, 10,000 bolts of lightning appeared. An extremely frightening big palm violently punched out. Boom. Crack. However, in the next moment it suddenly shattered. Because the Golden Lion King's fist was unstoppable. Nothing could stop it. In an instant, it pierced through the lightning palm. Extinguish. After saying that, the golden light in the Golden Lion King's eyes shone even brighter. He punched out a big golden palm that covered the sky. It was like a golden divine mountain that descended from the sky. Boom. That human-shaped lightning was smashed into pieces. Once again, it turned into countless bluestone lightning bolts and scattered in all directions. Seeing this scene, the Golden Lion King sneered. Then he took a step forward and walked forward. The surrounding lightning bolts flew towards him. However, the golden light on his body turned into a peerless ferocious beast that resisted the surrounding lightning bolts. What frightening combat power! Behind him, the third prince and the others took a deep breath when they saw this scene. This golden lion king was simply too powerful. It seemed that he had definitely surpassed the elite powerhouses. This kind of combat power was definitely at the peak. Inside the Grand Imperial Hall, those elders also saw this scene through the screen. They all exclaimed in surprise. As expected of a member of the battle group. His combat power was simply too heaven-defying. That's right. He definitely had the combat power of a peak powerhouse. I'm afraid that elite powerhouses are nothing in his hands. Such an existence was simply an invincible existence in the younger generation. I'm afraid that no one in the younger generation is his match. Why do I feel that even those older powerhouses aren't his match? The war race was indeed too frightening. Exclamations could be heard. Clearly, the power displayed by the Golden Lion King had truly shocked these royal elders. On the other side, the third prince and Daoist Long also became anxious when they saw the Golden Lion King walking further and further away. They roared furiously and prepared to attack. However, at this moment, a figure was faster than them and walked ahead of them. What is that brat? The powerhouses on the third prince's side were extremely shocked. Because they saw Lin Xian holding a supreme-grade treasured saber and walking forward in large strides. This brat wanted to enter the front alone? Contending against the lightning bolts? A few elite powerhouses frowned. The corners of their mouths curled up into a cold smile. Truly reckless. Chapter 2141. The third prince sneered. Even the elders of the royal family were discussing. But soon they were stunned. Everyone opened their eyes wide as if they had seen a ghost. Especially those powerful figures around the third prince. Their faces were all red as if they had been slapped in the face in public. Lin Xian walked forward. Then, the lightning in front of him intertwined and formed a humanoid lightning. That humanoid lightning charged towards Lin Xian at lightning speed. Its body emitted powerful electricity that pierced through all directions. This aura once again made the hearts of these powerful figures tremble. However, Lin Xian sneered. He held the supreme-grade saber with both hands and slashed down. The terrifying saber light tore through the void and split the humanoid lightning in half. What? It was split in half. Everyone's eyes almost popped out. This kid is too terrifying. He split a humanoid lightning in half with a saber. Heavens, could it be that his combat strength has reached the level of a top-notch powerful figure? These people were all stunned. In the Grand Imperial Hall, the elders of the royal family twitched their mouths and their scalps went numb. This kid can definitely compete with the Golden Lion King. No, not necessarily. One of the elders of the royal family opened his eyes wide and pointed at the screen. Come and see. The Golden Lion King is challenging two humanoid lightning alone. Damn, this is heaven-defying. These people were about to go crazy because the Golden Lion King was currently contending against two humanoid lightning. His entire body emitted a powerful golden light. He was like a god of war as he fought against the two humanoid lightning. In the end, he struck out two golden lions and swallowed the humanoid lightning. Powerful. Incomparably powerful. Especially the third prince and Daoist Long. They looked at the Golden Lion King with heavy hearts. This kind of combat strength was rarely seen in their lives. Buzz buzz buzz. When Lin Xian saw this scene, the corners of his mouth curled up. The supreme-grade saber in his hand drew a strange arc. The terrifying saber light swept across the heaven and earth. In an instant, it enveloped the two humanoid lightning in front. What? He also wants to challenge two humanoid lightning? Heavens, am I dreaming? Damn, this kid is too crazy. Could it be that he can also fight against them? Pretentious, he must be pretentious. I don't believe that he can contend against two humanoid lightnings. On the third prince's side, a group of mighty figures roared madly. They were truly agitated. How could he be so strong? However, they did not believe that Lin Xian would be able to contend against the two human-shaped lightning bolts. Even the Golden Lion King stopped and turned around. Soon after, the Golden Lion King revealed a disdainful smile. Lin Xian did not pay attention to these people. His gaze was fixed on the two human-shaped lightning bolts in front of him. The two human-shaped lightning bolts also flew over quickly and stood side by side, emitting a terrifying aura. Violent lightning filled the surroundings, forming a lightning domain. It turned into a sea of lightning that swallowed Lin Xian. On Lin Xian's body, the image of an ice goddess formed. The terrifying ice resisted the lightning that filled the sky. Heaven-extinguishing chaos sword. The supreme-grade treasured saber in his hand was now used as a long sword, and he quickly slashed out. Suddenly, a few sharp sword auras appeared in the sky. This was a chaotic sword aura. It was as heavy as 10,000 kilograms and crushed the void. It slashed out like a giant dragon. Boom. The sea of lightning was instantly pierced through, and a terrifying chaotic aura covered the surroundings. Then the two humanoid lightning bolts were split apart. What? He also killed two humanoid lightning bolts. These people were really crazy. Looking at Lin Xian, they were all terrified. Their bodies were trembling. Powerful, he was too powerful. They could not do such a thing. In other words, the young man in front of them had completely surpassed them in terms of combat strength. They could not believe it. A young man in his 20s had actually surpassed them, the seniors who had lived for thousands of years. For a moment, these people were stunned on the spot. The imperial family elders were also dumbstruck. The Golden Lion King frowned. He did not expect that the other party could contend against two humanoid lightning bolts. This was beyond his expectations. Could it be that the other party could really compete with him? Thinking of this, he snorted coldly and his face sank. As a genius of the war tribe, he thought that he was unparalleled and that no one could be compared to him. But now there was someone who could stand shoulder to shoulder with him? How could he tolerate this? Therefore, at the next moment, he turned his head and roared. He stretched out his palm and covered the three humanoid lightning bolts in front of him. He wanted to use his heaven-defying and incomparably violent strength to prove to the world that he was unique and invincible. In fact, he could not be looked up to. Behind him, Lin Xian let out a long roar. The aura on his body suddenly changed, turning into streaks of lightning that swept across the surroundings. This kid also had the power of lightning? Could it be that he was also a lightning-type martial artist? Everyone exclaimed again. The power of lightning on Lin Xian's body became more and more violent. Then it formed the shadow of a three-headed hellhound that roared at the sky. The terrifying power of lightning struck in all directions. Two completely different types of lightning power collided and caused a great destruction. Then, three humanoid figures charged at Lin Xian at the same speed. Lin Xian was also going to fight against three humanoid lightning bolts? Heavens, was he going to fight against the Golden Lion King? Everyone was extremely shocked. As for the elders of the royal family, they were all excited. Previously, they were still guessing who was stronger between the two of them. Now that they thought about it, they could see clearly. Because both of them were fighting against three humanoid lightning bolts by themselves. And these humanoid lightning bolts were incomparably terrifying. They were not weaker than powerful experts. Could the two of them fight against each other? They did not know, but they felt their blood boiling. They were extremely excited. 1 against 3. Lin Xian indeed felt great pressure. However, the more he fought, the braver he became. The supreme-grade saber in his hand turned into a terrifying chaotic aura and slashed in all directions. The three humanoid lightning bolts in front were also attacking crazily. The terrifying power of thunder made people tremble. The people behind were all stunned. They looked at the two huge whirlpools in front of them and were speechless for a long time. Because no matter if it was Lin Xian or the Golden Lion King, their combat strength was too heaven-defying. It was not something they could imagine. Boom. Seal of the Fearless Lion. At the front, the Golden Lion King roared. His golden hair fluttered and his entire body emitted a terrifying aura. Along with his palm, the three-headed golden lion suddenly spat out and tore the three humanoid lightning bolts apart. And the aura on his body had also reached a peak. Primal Chaos Heaven Destroyer Sword. At the same time, Lin Xian used a terrifying heaven-tier cultivation technique. He also used an extremely powerful sword chi to kill the three humanoid lightning bolts. What? The two of them actually succeeded? Everyone looked at the scene in front of them and was stunned. They did not expect that Lin Xian and the Golden Lion King could kill the three humanoid lightning bolts. It was really out of their expectations. Chapter 2142. The Golden Lion King also frowned. It abruptly turned its head and stared at Lin Xian with a gaze as sharp as a knife. To be honest, he was very surprised. Because he didn't expect that the young man behind him could be compared to him. What a joke. He couldn't accept it. Therefore, at the next moment, he coldly snorted. Kid, you want to challenge me? You're overestimating yourself. Lin Xian also snorted. My goal is to become a great emperor. Who do you think you are? Do you need me to challenge you? Hearing this, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Their scalps went numb as they couldn't believe it. What did he say? He actually dared to look down on the Golden Lion King? Heavens, isn't this kid too arrogant? That's the genius of the war race. The legendary race that was born for battle. That's right, this kid must be crazy. Even if he could resist the 3 streaks of lightning, it didn't mean that he could resist the Golden Lion King. Perhaps the Golden Lion King didn't use his full strength earlier. Sounds of discussion could be heard. Everyone thought that Lin Xian had really gone mad. Too arrogant. The Golden Lion King's face also sank. A terrifying killing intent burst out from his eyes. Kid, what did you say? Say it again? His voice was cold. The aura on his body quickly condensed and a golden shadow appeared on his body. I'm not afraid of you. Lin Xian took a step forward. His body erupted with a cold chaotic sword light. The sword chi revolved and tore the sky apart. Then the sword chi spiraled and turned into a real dragon coiling above Lin Xian. Boom, boom, boom. The two of them faced each other with equal harshness. They both summoned huge shadows and suppressed the surroundings. The surrounding aura also became more and more condensed. Just the aura that was emitted was enough to cause the surrounding space to collapse. At the back, the third prince, Daoist Long, and the others sucked in a breath of cold air. They knew that they couldn't wait any longer. They had to act quickly. Otherwise, if they were left behind, they wouldn't have the chance to obtain the peerless treasure. Therefore, they also displayed their powerful strength and began to enter the green path. Then a series of thunder attacks appeared. They resisted crazily. In front of them, Lin Xian and the Golden Lion King were facing each other. The aura on their bodies was becoming more and more condensed. The Golden Lion King coldly said, "Brat, you don't have the qualifications to obtain the treasures ahead. Those treasures belong to me. Whether or not I'm qualified, it's not up to you to decide. Treasures were innate and only those with the ability could obtain them. Whoever was stronger would get the treasure. If you want to stop me, you'll have to be prepared to be killed. You want to kill me with just you alone?" He really overestimated himself. After the Golden Lion King heard this, it sneered in disdain. "Is that so? It just so happens that I want to experience whether or not the war race is as powerful as the legends say." Lin Xian's eyes flashed with a sharp light. "Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish." The Golden Lion King was finally enraged. It coldly snorted, and the golden aura on its body suddenly erupted. As if it was going to destroy the world, it illuminated the entire sky. Then he stretched out his palm. The giant golden palm crushed the void. It was incomparably terrifying, destroying everything in its path. Chup. Lin Xian swung the saber in his hand and slashed out a huge light blade. The terrifying light blade descended like a river of stars, boundless and boundless. In the next moment, the two collided and a huge explosion occurred. The aftermath of that energy directly tore apart all the lightning in the surroundings. This scene was like the end of the world, causing people to be shocked. The expressions of the third prince, Daoist Long, and the others also changed. They all retreated to avoid the aftermath. In the Grand Imperial Hall, the royal family elders cried out in alarm when they saw this scene. Because the two peerless geniuses had finally fought. Boom, boom, boom. A huge explosion occurred in front of them, and the surrounding sea of lightning was instantly pierced through. That giant golden palm blocked the sharp sword light, and then the light dimmed. Crack. In the end, it was cut in half. However, that terrifying sword energy was also torn apart under the power of the giant golden palm. The two attacks dissipated in the sky at the same time, vanishing into thin air. When everything disappeared, the third prince, Daoist Long, and the other almighties behind were all shocked. They were evenly matched. The two of them were actually evenly matched. Their hearts turned cold. This was too terrifying. They could understand the Golden Lion King's strength because he was a legendary genius of the war race. Lin Xian was actually able to fight against such a legendary genius. It was simply too heaven-defying. On the other side, Lin Xian was also shocked. The other party was indeed a genius of the war race. He was indeed terrifying. The other party's palm was simply too sharp and carried an incomparably terrifying force, causing him to be extremely shocked. It was only because of his unparalleled combat strength that he was able to block it. If it was any other elite almighties, they would probably have been smashed into a bloody mist. He was actually able to block my attack. On the other side, the Golden Lion King was also extremely surprised. He frowned and his face was incomparably gloomy. Because he was a genius of the war race and was extremely powerful. That palm just now was something that even elite almighties couldn't block. Probably only peak almighties could block it. But now, this young man in front of him actually blocked it and even shattered his attack. It was truly unexpected. But so what? Only death awaited those who dared to fight against him. Therefore, in the next moment, his expression turned cold. He took a step forward and caused countless cracks to appear in the void. The surrounding sea of lightning was also mercilessly pierced through. Kid, you actually dare to fight against me. Today I will let you know the power of the war race. The Golden Lion King's voice was ice cold. His golden hair fluttered in the wind. His gaze was like a sharp blade cutting through the void. The current him was like an ancient war god, causing others to tremble. Lin Xian coldly snorted. The war race was only SOSO. It was just that the legend said that they were too powerful. Today I will shatter this legend. Lin Xian's body once again emitted an incomparably terrifying sword aura. The sword aura spread out in all directions and instantly caused the sky to change color. The current Lin Xian was like a peerless sword god. His body emitted a sharp and terrifying sword intent. Subsequently, he held the supreme-grade saber in his hand and a terrifying aura crazily surged out. The saber slashed down. Although it was a saber, Lin Xian used a sword technique. The biting cold sword light was like a rainbow, piercing through the heaven and earth and rapidly flying out. Your attacks have no effect on me at all. The Golden Lion King coldly snorted. This kind of attack can't hurt me at all. He clenched his fist and punched out with his golden fist. It pierced through all directions and directly blasted the sword aura away. This Golden Lion King's physique was so strong. It could actually fight against a supreme-grade Earth-grade artifact bare-handedly. Those supreme experts and the royal family elders exclaimed in admiration and envy. Even they didn't dare to fight against a supreme-grade Earth-grade artifact saber bare-handedly. However, the Golden Lion King easily did it. It had to be said that it was really shocking. This also showed how terrifying the war race was. Lin Xian frowned. The great dragon sword soul in his body surged. Immediately, an even more terrifying sword aura revolved around his body, forming a terrifying sword light. Chapter 2143. Boom. Lin Xian unleashed hundreds of sword chi in a row. His speed had reached the extreme at this moment, and it was almost completed in a blink of an eye. In the sky, the sword light that filled the sky swept in all directions before ruthlessly slashing down. Boom, boom, boom. The terrifying sword wave easily cut open the void. Even Taoist Long and the other almighties' expressions changed. One could imagine how terrifying this sword chi was. Facing thousands of sword chi, the Golden Lion King also frowned. A terrifying divine light burst out from its eyes. The golden light on its body became even more terrifying. It moved its fists and unleashed an incomparably ferocious fist technique. Terrifying light flickered. In the sky, countless golden fists surged and collided with the sword chi in the sky. A shocking battle erupted. Terrifying light shocked the surroundings. Some of the human-shaped lightning that had just formed in the surroundings were directly turned into ashes by the explosion of this energy. Damn it, where did this kid come from? He could actually withstand so many moves from the Golden Lion King? That's not right. This kid's aura hasn't weakened even until now. How rich is the spiritual energy in his body? Is he really just a 6-star king? Everyone was stunned. If Lin Xian was an elite almighty, it wouldn't be strange for him to have such combat strength. However, the other party was just a 6-star king. Even if a 6-star king could display the combat strength of an elite almighty, the amount of spiritual energy in his body couldn't be compared at all. The difference between an almighty and a 6-star king could be said to be heaven and earth. However, at this moment Lin Xian seemed to have broken this rule. This shocked everyone. Not to mention Lin Xian, that Golden Lion King was also the same. From the looks of it, he shouldn't be a true almighty. These two people were both 6-star kings, but they had such heaven-defying combat strength. It was really shocking. Just as everyone was exclaiming, the battle in front became even more intense. Lin Xian's body was filled with sword chi, and the dragon sword spirit domain appeared. Then the sword light that filled the sky quickly surged out. A lion-like phantom appeared on the Golden Lion King's body. It was like a huge golden mountain. Yang Tian roared, letting out an incomparable roar. Instantly, the sword chi that filled the sky was shattered. Following the Golden Lion King's actions, that Huang Jun Xiongshi immediately raised one of its claws and slapped towards Lin Xian. It blotted out the sky and covered the earth, annihilating the void. It was as if it was really an ancient ferocious beast, extremely terrifying. Lin Xian coldly snorted. How could he lose to a demonic beast phantom? He had just subdued the phantom of an immemorial demonic beast, and it was the perfect time to use it against the enemy. Therefore, in the next moment, blood-red sword patterns appeared under his feet and enveloped the surroundings. An overwhelming murderous aura instantly burst out. Boom, boom, A boundless smell of blood emerged, and there seemed to be a sea of blood surging around. The expressions of those powerful beings changed. Countless strands of sword chi intertwined to form an incomparably terrifying primordial phantom. Brr. Boom. Boom. That primordial vanity beast covered the sky and covered the sun. As soon as it appeared, it moved its body, and everywhere it passed, the void shattered. Accompanying it was an extremely terrifying aura that caused the adults to feel a chill run down their spines. Damn it, what kind of aura is this? How could it be so terrifying? Why do I have a feeling that my heart is palpitating? Everyone swallowed their saliva and looked up at the black primordial phantom, dumbstruck. That was the immemorial demonic crocodile. Damn it, wasn't that the crocodile? How did he have this primordial phantom? The third prince and the others were all stunned, and their scalps went numb. They had faced this kind of black crocodile before. It was extremely terrifying and could even kill elite mighty beings. Moreover, it was only a young crocodile. In the end, they found out that it was a peerless demonic beast that had been passed down since ancient times. Its strength was extremely terrifying, and they had to use extremely powerful methods to escape. But what was going on now? How could Lin Xian have such a primordial phantom? Wasn't that the power of the dark demonic crocodile's bloodline? How could it appear in his hands? Not to mention the third prince and the others, even the elders of the royal family in the Grand Imperial Hall exclaimed in surprise. Damn it, how did this kid do it? Everyone was stunned. However, an elder exclaimed, "Oh right, didn't a young primordial crocodile disappear earlier? Could it be that it was killed by this kid? And its demonic soul was extracted?" When this was said, all the elders of the royal family sucked in a breath of cold air, because they realized that it was very likely to be the case. However, the other party was actually able to kill a dark demonic crocodile, and he had successfully refined the demonic soul, which really shocked them. At the same time, they were extremely envious. After all, this was an immemorial demonic soul, which was extremely terrifying. They wondered how the Golden Lion King would resist it. Everyone was looking forward to it, because they knew that the war race, as a race that had been passed down since ancient times, naturally had its own bloodline power. They might be able to use this battle to gain some insight. The Golden Lion King frowned when he saw the primordial phantom that filled the sky. Then, the corner of his mouth rose into a cold smile. "I thought you had some means to fight against me. I didn't expect that you only extracted the soul of an immemorial demonic soul. Do you think that you can fight against me like this?" The Golden Lion King sneered in disdain. "Isn't it just a dark demonic crocodile? I've just killed one. Do you think you can fight against me with just its demonic soul? You are overestimating yourself." "What? The Golden Lion King also killed a dark demonic crocodile?" Hearing this, everyone was dumbfounded. That was too heaven-defying. When did the Golden Lion King do it? They cried out in surprise. Since the Golden Lion King dared to come to the Dark Canyon alone, he might have encountered the dark demonic crocodile. However, the other party was actually able to successfully kill the dark demonic crocodile. It was enough to prove how powerful and terrifying his strength was. The Golden Lion King's words caused everyone to be shocked. Even Lin Xian frowned. He didn't expect the Golden Lion King to have killed the dark demonic crocodile. But so what? The immemorial demonic soul had become incomparably powerful in his demon-slaying sword formation. It was definitely not something that could be imagined before. Kill. Therefore, in the next moment, he roared and controlled the immemorial demonic soul to attack. In the sky, the huge immemorial demonic soul emitted a terrifying fluctuation. Then its huge body quickly descended like a mountain. On the other side, the Golden Lion King controlled the Golden Lion Phantom to fight against the immemorial demonic crocodile. The two demonic souls clashed in the sky. The terrifying energy fluctuation caused the space to be destroyed. Even if it was a powerful expert, his heart trembled. The two immemorial demonic souls were too terrifying. It was as if the real ancient demonic beasts were reborn. In an instant the two clashed. They were evenly matched and the galaxy was shattered. Buzz. However, at this moment the Golden Lion King let out a furious roar. A beam of light shot towards Lin Xian. Chapter 2144. Lin Xian was still fearless. He waved his long sword and unleashed a terrifying light. It turned into a long rainbow and slashed down. It was so powerful that even the void was trembling. The battle between the two completely drowned the front. Behind them, the third prince and the rest had a gloomy expression because their path was cut off. The two were fighting in front and they couldn't pass. They could only wait here. Boom. 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 However, at this moment, the light pillar in the distance changed again. An even more majestic aura burst out as if it would appear at any time. Seeing this scene, the Golden Lion King's eyes turned cold. He no longer wanted to fight. He turned into a ray of light and flew forward. Compared to the battle, obtaining the rare treasure was more important. Lin Xian also snorted. He used the demigods and semi-devils and chased after them. His speed was very fast. In an instant he rushed forward. The entire sea of lightning was mercilessly pierced through. Seeing that Lin Xian and the Golden Lion King had finally left, the powerful beings behind heaved a sigh of relief. In the next moment, they didn't delay any longer and quickly moved forward. They finally came to the front. There was a valley surrounded by mountains on 3 sides. There was only one entrance. The walls surrounding the mountain exuded an ancient aura, as if they had existed for thousands of years. Not only that, there were also mysterious runes on them. It was very profound. It was impossible to understand. However, the aura they emitted was extremely shocking. The entire valley was almost covered by a huge light. It seemed that the rare treasure was in this valley. Was it here? When the third prince and the rest arrived, they exclaimed in surprise. They looked forward with fiery gazes. However, there were 2 figures in front of them, blocking their path. It was Lin Xian and the Golden Lion King. The 2 of them had arrived earlier than them. However, the 2 of them had a serious expression and didn't enter rashly. Boom. 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 Not long after they arrived, the surroundings of the valley started to tremble. Then the ground cracked open and red stone pillars appeared. They were also connected to the sky and earth. There were ancient beasts carved on them. They were so lifelike as if they were real. It emitted an incomparably terrifying aura. 9 fiery red stone pillars joined together to form a terrifying array formation, blocking the path. Get out of my way. At this moment, an old man wielding a supreme-grade saber fiercely slashed forward. Suddenly, the long saber collided with the pillar that was as red as fire. The void trembled as the 9 fiery red pillars connected together, emitting incomparable energy. His appearance was incomparably mysterious. At this moment, the gigantic light pillar in the valley ahead suddenly trembled. A ray of light swept out in all directions like a wave. Not good. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked and wanted to dodge. However, the speed of the light was simply too fast. It enveloped them in an instant. In the next moment, these people were extremely shocked. They all put up a strong defense. But soon, they were stunned because the light didn't cause any harm to them. What's going on? Could it be that he wasn't injured? These people were puzzled. Ka. Cracking sounds could be heard as the old man's saber shattered into countless pieces, scattering all over the ground. Oh, damn it. How could this be? That elder cried out in alarm, feeling exceptionally angry. This was a supreme-grade earth-grade saber that he had obtained from the pavilion. The elder was overjoyed to obtain this saber. This was because this saber was not commonly seen in the outside world. A top-grade supreme-grade saber could increase his strength by 1 or 2 times. It could be said that it was absolutely terrifying. But now it had shattered inexplicably. This was something that he could not accept at all. Ka. He was not the only one. The treasures in the hands of the other almighties had all shattered. Even the saber in Lin Xian's hand had broken into 2 halves. This scene made Lin Xian frown. What's going on? How could this be? Not to mention them, everyone was stunned. The Golden Lion King's face was also gloomy because the treasures he had obtained from the pavilion had also shattered into pieces. His expression was incomparably cold. Inside the Grand Imperial Hall, the elders of the royal family began to discuss among themselves when they saw this scene. How could this be? A supreme-grade earth-grade saber could be said to be incomparably terrifying. If a peerless almighty couldn't shatter it, even an invincible king couldn't, right? How could it shatter now? Could it be caused by the light pillar that reached the sky? Heavens! What kind of treasure was this to be able to produce such a terrifying energy? Could it be that it surpassed the earth-grade? Could it be a heaven-grade treasure? Thinking of this, they exclaimed again and again. Lin Xian also thought of this possibility, so he looked forward with flickering eyes. At this moment, everyone raised their heads and looked forward. They knew that the treasure in front of them was definitely beyond their imagination. Buzz. Just as they were in shock, the 9 red pillars in front of them suddenly bloomed with light and then moved quickly. At the place where they were connected to the ground, countless runes spread out and quickly covered the entire ground. Countless runes flickered, and formations lit up one after another, trapping everyone. Damn it! The third prince and the others' faces changed and they wanted to quickly dodge. However, these mysterious runes not only spread to the ground, but also to the void, forming a wall of light. It completely sealed the entire space around them. Therefore, in the next moment they collided with the light wall, and a shocking light burst out. Countless runes flashed, but the light wall did not shatter. A huge vibration force surged towards these powerhouses, and these powerhouses frantically counterattacked, neutralizing the energy. However, they were trapped. Not only these people, but at this moment, Taoist Long Lin Xian, the Golden Lion King, and everyone else were completely enveloped by the formation. They were sealed. Lin Xian, the Golden Lion King, and the others were completely sealed by the formation. In an instant, everyone's faces turned gloomy. Since they were sealed, then they had to break the formation. Everyone began to study the formation. However, there were 9 fiery red light pillars, and Lin Xian and the others happened to have 9 people. Therefore, everyone was separated. There was no way to combine them, and they could only study them individually. In this way, the third prince's advantage of having more people was gone. The third prince's face was terrifyingly dark. He did not expect this to happen. Lin Xian's lips curled up, because he was also a formation master. Therefore, he sat down cross-legged and began to break the formation. On the other side, the Golden Lion King was simpler and more violent, because he did not study the formation at all. Instead, he used his incomparably powerful combat strength to fight against the runes that filled the sky. Boom boom boom. Chapter 2145. But fortunately, everything was sealed by the array formation. Otherwise, this energy alone would be enough to flatten everything within a radius of 10,000 miles. On the other side, mysterious runes appeared on Lin Xian's fingers as he began to crack the array. Moreover, he wasn't cracking it himself. The dark red dragon was currently in the black earth, so he also let the dark red dragon participate in the cracking. The two of them, one in the light and one in the dark, quickly made their moves. Although this array was incomparably profound and had been passed down from ancient times, under the full strength of Lin Xian and the dark red dragon, it was quickly resolved. In the end, a crack was torn open. That's great. Lin Xian was overjoyed and increased his speed. When the surrounding people saw this scene, they were all extremely shocked. Heavens, it had only been a few hours and that kid could already tear open a crack? Who exactly was he? Could it be that he was also an array grandmaster? Taoist Long and the Lord of the Underworld were stunned. On the other side, the third prince's face was gloomy. He was extremely mad. He stared fiercely at the light screen, but there was nothing he could do, because he didn't have the combat strength of the Golden Lion King. In the Grand Imperial Hall, the royal elders were also shocked when they saw this scene. This kid was too terrifying. He was definitely an array grandmaster. But how could he be? Which array grandmaster didn't become one after thousands of years of cultivation? The other party was a young kid in his 20s. Even if his talent was abnormal, it shouldn't be. Besides, were the other array grandmasters as strong as him? A person's energy was limited. How did he do it? These people almost bit off their tongues. However, something even more shocking happened. Because at this moment, an earth-shattering sound came from the light screen again. The Golden Lion King's fist smashed into the array formation, creating a crack. This Golden Lion King was too frightening. This was using pure strength to resist the entire ancient array. What kind of heaven-defying level had this guy's strength reached? Could it be that he had already reached the level of a peerless almighty? Everyone was terrified. The Golden Lion King's performance was even more terrifying. Lin Xian's eyes flickered. He didn't expect the other party's combat strength to be so strong. But so what? His opponent's consumption should be even faster. Moreover, if he summoned his great dragon sword soul, he would be able to break through the formation as well. Of course, he would not reveal his trump card. Therefore, he used the most primitive method to remove it. Finally, after another 2 hours, Lin Xian smiled. That was because the array in front of him had a 1-meter-long crack. Although the crack wasn't big, it was enough to let him out. In the next moment, his figure flickered and he came out completely. What? He had really walked out. The faces of the third prince and his crew darkened upon seeing this, as their eyes were filled with despair. Could it be that he was going to let this kid snatch the heavenly treasure? With that in mind, they desperately slapped the light screen in front of them. On the other side, the Golden Lion King also let out a furious roar. It punched out with both of its fists, which transformed into 2 lions and completely shattered the light screen in front of it. Soon after, he strode out as well. Brat, in front of me, you don't have any chance. The Golden Lion King's eyes flickered as it stared at Lin Xian. Lin Xian directly made his move. The nine-held demonic sword went up and slashed out. This sword was like a divine rainbow from the heavens. It was extremely terrifying. It didn't look like a sword light at all, but more like a dragon. It covered the entire sky and mercilessly descended. Boom. The Golden Lion King raised its fist and resisted. An earth-shattering collision sound rang out, and a terrifying light burst forth. The void fluctuated violently, and the surrounding space shattered in an instant. Fortunately, the third prince and his crew were covered by the array, blocking this terrifying energy. Otherwise, just the energy shockwaves alone would have seriously injured these people. The Golden Lion King punched down and blasted the sword chi away. At the same time, a golden figure condensed on its body again. The surrounding space was completely illuminated. This time, not only was the space illuminated, but it also carried an extremely terrifying murderous aura. It penetrated through every inch of space and attacked Lin Xian, King's domain. This time, it was the Golden Lion King's domain. Even though the third prince and his crew were separated by the array, they still felt their hearts tremble. Lin Xian let out a low roar, and the ice goddess's illusion surged out from his body. The huge ice wings trembled, releasing the power of ice. The surrounding space quickly froze and countless frost appeared. It was completely frozen. Even the golden light was frozen. It moved very slowly as if it had entered a quagmire. Ka. Not only that, the terrifying aura of ice spread toward the Golden Lion King, wanting to freeze it as well. However, the Golden Lion King let out a cold snort, and its body emitted an incomparably terrifying aura. It was like a golden sun, shining in all directions. Any ice and snow that came close to it would quickly melt. Brat, your little bit of ice power is useless against me. The Golden Lion King sneered, and a trace of disdain appeared in its eyes. Is that so? Lin Xian snorted, and light flickered in his eyes. The great dragon sword soul in his body surged, and countless amounts of ice power condensed on his demonic sword. The ice broke. With a swing of the sword, a huge amount of ice sword chi surged, and then an ice sword shadow pierced out. Between heaven and earth, a terrifying storm swept out. The sword chi crazily swallowed and spat out, filling every inch of space. The sharp sword chi contained in it was extremely terrifying. Even the face of a powerful expert changed. Boom. This sword was extremely terrifying, and it arrived in front of the Golden Lion King in an instant. Even the Golden Lion King was frowning, because this sword was enough to threaten it. Therefore it snorted and its body swayed, quickly dodging. Seeing this scene, Lin Xian laughed. What? Didn't you say that my ice power is useless against you? Then why are you still dodging? You're just SOSO. Brat, you're courting death. Hearing this, the Golden Lion King was furious. In the next moment, light bloomed in its eyes. The Golden Lion King was mad. No one had ever dared to treat it like this. It roared, and a layer of golden light appeared on its body. It was as if a peerless beast was awakening. Then it threw a punch forward. The golden fist was like the sun, blooming with thousands of rays of light. Lin Xian also let out a long roar. The demonic sword in his hand bloomed with cold light, as if it had crossed over from the demonic realm. The terrifying sword chi directly slashed down. Boom. The two met and then collided. It was as if two parts of the sky had collapsed, and a terrifying aura burned in all directions. So powerful. These two were too terrifying. In the surroundings, the third prince, Dao Long, and the others exclaimed. All of them had their mouths wide open, and they all looked forward with solemn eyes. Buzz. Lin Xian's sword slashed down. It was as if it had pierced through the 9 heavens, and all kinds of terrifying sword light appeared. Chapter 2146. Buzz. Lin Xian slashed with his sword. It was as if he had pierced through the 9 heavens. All sorts of terrifying sword light appeared. The sword let out a dragon-like roar. The Golden Lion King was equally terrifying. It was as if an ancient lion had awakened. Its golden fist destroyed a large area of space. Boom. Boom. Both of them were peerless geniuses. When they attacked with their full strength, it was earth-shattering. After the attack, both of them quickly retreated. Their blood was boiling and their faces were pale. However, their eyes were even more piercingly cold. Seal of the Tailless Lion. Just at this moment, the Golden Lion King coldly shouted. A sharp light burst out from its eyes. Its palm formed a seal and golden light shone in all directions. A lion phantom appeared and circled in the Golden Lion King's hand. The lion's shadow was extremely terrifying. As soon as it appeared, the sky in all directions collapsed and terrifying thunder rumbled. The Golden Lion King held the seal of the fearless lion and quickly attacked. Boom, boom, boom. Lin Xian's body surged with countless black flames. They burned fiercely like the flames of hell. Then he turned into a huge flaming giant. It was 10,000 feet tall and looked down on the world. The flaming giant clenched its fists. A huge flaming divine sword appeared in its hand and slashed downwards. Boom, boom, boom. Hundreds of thousands of divine swords trembled. The terrifying sword light was hundreds of feet long, and it ruthlessly shattered the void. Kill. The Golden Lion King roared and activated the seal of the fearless lion to contend against it. Intense collisions sounded continuously. Every time the void was shattered. However, Lin Xian's sword chi was too strong. It caused the seal of the fearless lion to dim and even crack. Seeing this scene, everyone exclaimed, "Could it be that this Lin Xian is even stronger than the Golden Lion King?" They didn't dare to imagine. In the next moment, the seal of the fearless lion in the Golden Lion King's hand shattered. Seeing that the huge flaming sword was about to fall, the Golden Lion King roared. Burning Sun Fist. At this critical moment he once again unleashed a peerless fist technique. His fist transformed into a golden sun. It was incomparable and shone in all directions. Boom. He punched out, hitting the flaming sword chi, causing cracks to appear on the flaming sword chi. In an instant, the Golden Lion King unleashed over 100 punches. That huge flaming divine sword was broken into two halves. Lin Xian was also affected and retreated. The Golden Lion King was so powerful. He actually possessed such a terrifying fist technique. That's right. From the looks of it, the Golden Lion King was still stronger. Everyone exclaimed in surprise. Even the elders of the imperial family cried out in surprise. Lin Xian was sent flying by the shockwave and came to a stop. His face was a little pale, but his eyes were even colder. In the next moment he was about to unleash an even more powerful ultimate move. However, at this moment, countless runes appeared around him, forming another array. It enveloped him. On the other side, the Golden Lion King was also besieged again. Damn it, it's this formation again. Lin Xian frowned. He didn't expect the array to be able to repair itself. It was beyond his expectations. On the other side, the Golden Lion King was also furious. It frantically attacked the runes around it again. Lin Xian sat down cross-legged. He didn't make a move immediately. Instead, his eyes flickered. Because from the previous exchange, the Golden Lion King was very strong. It was not weaker than him. In fact, the Golden Lion King was even stronger than him. Therefore, if he rashly opened the seal and fought with the Golden Lion King, he might not be able to win. Therefore, he had to think of another way. In the next moment, Lin Xian asked through voice transmission, "Ruffian Dragon, is the Heart of Darkness done?" "One is done. I'll give it to you first." The dark red dragon replied through voice transmission. He opened his mouth and spat out a heart of darkness. Lin Xian raised his hand and formed an array. It formed a light that covered his body. He didn't want others to pry into his secret. Therefore, a few more arrays appeared in the ancient array and covered Lin Xian's figure. When the surrounding people saw this scene, they were all very surprised. They couldn't understand what Lin Xian was doing. Lin Xian took out the heart of darkness from the black earth and quickly swallowed it. Boom, boom, boom. The heart of darkness no longer had the aura of death. Therefore, after Lin Xian swallowed it, it directly turned into the purest energy. Lin Xian crazily circulated the longevity art to digest and absorb this energy. At this moment he circulated the longevity art to the extreme. The longevity art was indeed very terrifying. It displayed an extremely powerful conversion ability. This allowed Lin Xian to quickly absorb this energy. Lin Xian's cultivation and strength were also rapidly increasing. However, the people outside were somewhat puzzled. At this moment they couldn't see clearly what Lin Xian was doing. However, no one was in the mood to care. The most important thing now was to break the array. However, this array wasn't that easy to break. Apart from Lin Xian and the Golden Lion King, no one else managed to break it. The third prince and the others didn't manage to break it. However, no one gave up. The Golden Lion King was once again immersed in breaking the array. Time slowly passed. In the blink of an eye, a day had passed. At this moment, an extremely terrifying fluctuation was emitted from Lin Xian's side. Then all the light on Lin Xian's body disappeared. His figure appeared once again. Seeing this scene, everyone was somewhat surprised. However, they were more puzzled. What was this guy doing? However, at this moment, their gazes were attracted by the third prince. because the third prince relied on the secret technique of the royal family to break the array. He tore a crack and quickly came out. After coming out, the third prince revealed a proud smile. He strode forward, wanting to enter the valley. The third prince succeeded. In the grand imperial hall, the royal family elders exclaimed when they saw this scene. As expected, the third prince was indeed powerful. Although he didn't usually fight as one of the top princes, his strength was definitely not weak. For a moment, everyone's gazes were on the third prince. Lin Xian looked at the scene outside. The corners of his mouth curled up into a cold smile. He asked in a deep voice, "Ruffian Long, is it done?" "Don't worry with me, it will definitely be done." In the next moment, another crack was torn in the array in front of Lin Xian. Then Lin Xian stepped out and walked out. What? This kid broke the array again? Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned. The elders of the imperial family also cried out in alarm. They didn't expect Lin Xian to be so terrifying. He actually broke the array a second time. Even the Golden Lion King roared. Its eyes were gloomy and cold. This was because until now, it hadn't broken the array a second time. However, this kid actually broke the array a second time. It was really shocking. In fact, it wasn't Lin Xian who broke the array. Lin Xian had been in the array for an entire day and night, absorbing the energy of the Heart of Darkness. Chapter 2147. In fact, the array was not broken by Lin Xian. Lin Xian had been in the array for an entire day and night, absorbing the energy of the Heart of Darkness. Someone else was the one who had broken the formation. It was the dark red divine dragon. However, no one knew who it was, but that did not stop them from exclaiming in surprise. The third prince looked at the figure behind him and his face became extremely ugly. He did not expect Lin Xian to come out as well. This wasn't good news for him. However, he snorted coldly. "Kid, I didn't expect you to be so lucky to break the array so quickly. However, I'll show you my strength." "Your strength? What strength do you have?" Lin Xian sneered. To be honest, he had never seen the third prince fight before. The third prince was trembling with anger. "Don't be too arrogant. My strength is definitely beyond your imagination. You'll feel it soon." At the sight of this, all of the Almighties took in a deep breath. The eyes of the royal elders flickered because they knew that the third prince was definitely powerful. Among the princes of the Tai dynasty, he was definitely in the top 3. That kid is dead meat. Does he really think that I'm weak like the princes of the royal family? He'll regret it soon. Of course, the princes of the royal family are all peerless geniuses. With the supreme resources of the royal family, how could they be weak? It was just that these princes were of noble status and would not easily make a move. Once they made a move, they would definitely shock the world. Especially a top prince like the third prince, his combat strength was definitely terrifying. I'm guessing that he's not weaker than the Golden Lion King. The elders also nodded. They knew the strength of these princes. They were definitely incomparably powerful. Sure enough, the third prince's aura changed. Previously he was unwilling to make a move, but that did not mean that he was not strong. At that moment, his body was emitting a terrifying aura. Countless rays of light surged out of his body, forming a divine rainbow that quickly enveloped his entire body. The aura of a true dragon appeared and turned into a true dragon that circled around the third prince. With the addition of the true dragon's aura, the third prince's aura became even more terrifying. At that moment, the third prince was like a natural god of war. He was very valiant. Kill. The third prince let out a furious roar and charged forward like a violent dragon. Lin Xian snorted coldly as well. Using the demigods and semi-devils, he charged forward like a bolt of lightning. Boom. In the next moment, the two of them collided in the air like two huge meteors colliding. A terrifying sound rang out as resplendent light scattered in all directions. Then the two of them retreated. The third prince's expression was grave. Lin Xian also frowned. That was because he realized that the third prince was really strong. He definitely surpassed the average genius. It seemed that these princes of the royal family were indeed peerless geniuses. Although they usually did not fight, their strength was definitely not weak. This third prince was definitely not weaker than the first blade. He might even be stronger than a top genius like Bai Zijing. At this moment, Lin Xian's expression was incomparably grave. The third prince was also shocked. His strength was indeed terrifying, even surpassing a peak genius like the first blade. He even believed that he could contend against the Golden Lion King. It was just that he wasn't willing to take the risk. But now, the other party was actually able to fight him to a draw, which really surprised him. Thinking of this, A murderous intent appeared in his eyes. Then he rushed over again. The two of them erupted into a shocking battle, and terrifying sound waves swept out in all directions. After exchanging dozens of blows, the third prince suddenly struck out with his palm. Suddenly, the shadow of a true dragon quickly appeared, turning into a fierce killing move. This palm was extremely terrifying. It contained a supreme power like a true dragon. Boom. Lin Xian raised his hand and slashed out. A terrifying sword chi cut through the void and slashed on the giant dragon's palm. The two of them exchanged dozens of blows again, and then they each retreated. What peerless genius! You're nothing in front of me, the third prince sneered. That was because he realized that the other party could only fight to a draw with him, which made him very confident. That was because he still had a trump card in his hand that he had not used yet. You're very confident. But now everything is over. Lin Xian's body once again surged with a terrifying aura, and it instantly soared. Feeling this aura, everyone's expression changed. Especially the third prince, whose eyes were filled with fear. Damn it, you're still hiding your strength. You've hidden so much. He was too shocked because he realized that the other party's aura had become stronger than before. Indeed, Lin Xian had become stronger. That was because he had absorbed the energy of the Heart of Darkness. That made his strength even more powerful and terrifying than before. Wild Thunder Heavenly Eagle. In the next moment, Lin Xian decisively made his move. An incomparably violent aura surged out of his body, turning into a sharp bolt of lightning that flashed through. Then the third prince was sent flying. Bang! The third prince was forced back and he kept smashing through the void. A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. The third prince roared at the sky, and the anger of the heavens appeared in his voice. His opponent dared to injure him, which was unforgivable. Therefore he decided to use his trump card to kill his opponent. However, at this moment, countless runes lit up around him again, and a formation enveloped him again. Damn it! The third prince was furious. He did not expect that before he could make a move, he would be trapped by the formation again. On the other side, Lin Xian turned his head and no longer looked at the other party. However, the surrounding people were silent. Especially the royal elders in the Grand Imperial Hall, they were extremely shocked. They knew the third prince's strength. He was extremely powerful and he could fight against the Golden Lion King. Even so, he was still injured. Damn it, that brat's strength has become stronger again. How is this possible? Could it be that he was still hiding his strength? They did not dare to believe it, and the Golden Lion King frowned. In the next moment he roared, and with a domineering aura and boundless killing intent, he quickly smashed the light screen in front of him. Then he walked out again. Seeing the Golden Lion King walk out again, Lin Xian also turned his head, and a strong killing intent appeared in his eyes. The Golden Lion King sneered in disdain. Brat, you are not my opponent. Boom. Lin Xian did not say anything and directly made his move. He took a step forward and his body emitted a monstrous aura. The sword chi that filled the sky swept out, shocking everyone. It directly shattered the 9 heavens. Feeling the change in the aura, the Golden Lion King frowned. His eyes flickered and he stared at Lin Xian. Your aura is stronger than before. No wonder you dared to attack me again. However, it was still useless. After saying that, his figure flashed, and he instantly appeared beside Lin Xian, and his right hand swept out. A huge palm grabbed at Lin Xian. Chapter 2148. Clang. The two of them clashed and pulled apart the distance between them. The Golden Lion King frowned slightly, and a look of disbelief appeared on his face. Because in the previous exchange his entire right arm was filled with frost aura, and his meridians were all sealed. There was even a sharp sword aura that made his entire arm feel numb. This was too unbelievable. How did his opponent's strength become so strong? The surrounding powerhouses and the royal elders all sucked in a breath of cold air. That was because they discovered that the Golden Lion King had actually suffered a loss in the exchange just now. This was too inconceivable. One must know that Lin Xian was sent flying by the Golden Lion King with a single palm. After a day, Lin Xian was able to make the Golden Lion King suffer a loss? How did he do it? However, they were still extremely shocked. Because these two people were definitely peerless geniuses with endless means. Any one of them would be able to suppress these powerhouses. After succeeding in one move, Lin Xian's eyes flickered. He had consumed the Heart of Darkness and increased his strength by a lot. Moreover, in the previous exchange he did not use his full strength. That was why everyone thought that he was sent flying. However, this time he did not plan to hold back. Gaining the upper hand was just the beginning. With his current strength and the great dragon sword soul, he could definitely contend against the Golden Lion King. Therefore, in the next instant, Lin Xian made his move again. He stepped on the demigods and semi-devils and appeared in front of the Golden Lion King in an instant. The 9 underworld demonic sword in his hand emitted a terrifying aura, and then mercilessly slashed down. Boom. The Golden Lion King's expression was grave. He threw out a punch and it landed on the 9 underworld demonic sword. In an instant, the two of them trembled. Then the two of them kept retreating. The Golden Lion King stopped his body, and his expression was grave. Because Lin Xian's sword technique was much more terrifying than before. This shocked him and he had to be careful. It seemed that his opponent's strength had indeed increased. However, he did not know if it was because he held back yesterday, or because he had become stronger after one day and one night. But no matter what, it was not a small problem for him. "Brat, your swordsmanship is not bad. You can indeed contend against me," the Golden Lion King said in a deep voice. "However, I am merely resisting. I haven't even used my full strength yet. I still have countless trump cards that I haven't used yet. As a genius of the war race, you simply can't imagine what level my strength has reached. Moreover, the war clan is not something you can provoke, so I'll give you a piece of advice: quickly leave. Because you don't have the right to compete with me. But don't worry, after I obtain the peerless treasure, if I'm in a good mood, I can reward you with 1 or 2 cultivation techniques that will benefit you for the rest of your life." What? Hearing this, everyone was shocked. They didn't expect the Golden Lion King to say such words. Lin Xian, on the other hand, frowned. "You're too confident. Do you think you're the only one who hasn't used your full strength?" "I didn't use my full strength either." Lin Xian's voice was resounding. "However, as for the Battle Clan's cultivation method, you can keep it for yourself. I don't need it. What I need is the rare treasure in front of me." "Brat, it seems like you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit." Hearing Lin Xian's words, the Golden Lion King's mouth curled up into a cold smile. "My war race was born for battle. How can you contend against me? There's no point in talking anymore. Let's fight." Lin Xian coldly snorted. His gaze focused once again. He had already used many trump cards, but he could only fight to a draw with the Golden Lion King. It seemed like if he wanted to win, he would need to use some special methods. Bus. The demon-slaying sword array appeared beneath his feet. Soon after, it condensed into the immemorial phantom. At the same time, the dragon sword domain appeared and covered the sky above. This way, the entire sky and earth were her domain. As for Lin Xian, he stood in the air. His body emitted a terrifying primal chaos sword chi. Boom. The immemorial phantom took the initiative to attack. The Golden Lion King struck out with the seal of the fearless lion to contend against it. At the same time, golden flames burned on the Golden Lion King's hands. It was like 2 golden suns that revolved once again. Burning Sun Fist. Last time it was this fist that sent Lin Xian flying. However, this time Lin Xian coldly snorted. Countless primal chaos sword chi gushed out from his body and slashed forward. Boom, boom, boom. What? Was blocked. Seeing Lin Xian's sword chi being able to contend against the golden sun-like fist, everyone exclaimed in surprise. Those royal elders also exclaimed in surprise. They realized that Lin Xian's strength had indeed become stronger. Not only that, what made them even more shocked was yet to come. Because Lin Xian let out a long roar. Instantly, the dragon sword domain above his head emitted countless rays of sword chi. Then, it merged with him. The terrifying sword chi that filled the sky became even more biting cold. It shook the Golden Lion King's arm to the point of numbness. Crack. A crack appeared on the Golden Lion King's fist. Then blood flowed out. Damn it. How could this be? The Golden Lion King furrowed its brows as a trace of anger appeared in its eyes. Injured. He was actually injured. As for the surrounding people, they were all stunned. Heavens, the Golden Lion King was injured. How could this be? Previously, the Golden Lion King had received a peak Earth-ranked artifact with his bare hands. Even then, he was not injured at all. One could imagine how strong the Golden Lion King's physique was. But now, under Lin Xian's sword chi, he was actually injured. There was even blood flying out. Could it be that Lin Xian's sword chi had surpassed a peak Earth-ranked artifact? Thinking of this, they all swallowed their saliva. In the blink of an eye, more sword wounds appeared on the Golden Lion King's arm. Although they were not deep wounds, it was enough to cause blood to flow and dye the sky red. Brat, you have really angered me. The Golden Lion King's voice was ice cold. A terrifying killing intent spread out in all directions. The space behind him exploded, turning into a huge void. As for the Golden Lion King, it was also tumbling non-stop. It turned into flames and burned fiercely. Brat, go to hell. 9 heavens golden flame art. The Golden Lion King roared. Then, the golden flames on his body suddenly erupted and swept across the 9 heavens. The entire space was covered by golden waves. Lin Xian waved his hand. The dragon sword domain above his head quickly covered him. Then he released countless sword chi. It blocked the golden flames that filled the sky. Boom. The battle erupted once again. The 2 strength clashed non-stop. They were like 2 huge mountains colliding non-stop. The golden flames surged. The sky was filled with sword chi. Everywhere the sword chi passed, the void would shatter. Nothing could withstand it. Luckily, the 3rd prince and the others were enveloped by the array. Otherwise, they would have suffered from the terrifying energy impact. But in this sky filled with energy, the surrounding people could not see clearly. They could only rely on their souls to capture the trajectory. Chapter 2149. How terrifying. What was that? The powerful beings present all exclaimed. Although they were separated by a formation, they still felt a sense of fear. It was as if that sword light could destroy their souls. What was that? Could it be that this kid still had a terrifying treasure sword in his hand? Everyone was terrified. The Golden Lion King also furrowed his brows because he also felt a biting cold aura that made his entire body shiver. But in the next moment, he waved his hand and a golden spear was formed in the endless sea of flames. He held it in his hand. With a thrust of the spear, heaven and earth shattered. However, that chilling aura didn't disappear. It seemed to be getting more and more serious. No one knew that at this moment, a dragon-shaped sword shadow appeared in front of Lin Xian. Then it was held by Lin Xian and slashed out. Boom. The sky changed color and the surrounding space shattered. This sword chi shattered the void and slashed toward the Golden Lion King. In an instant, a large area of the sea of flames was extinguished. It was as if cold water was poured over it and it quickly disappeared. The Golden Lion King's figure also appeared in front of everyone. When they saw a sharp sword light slashing toward them, everyone was shocked. The elders of the royal family also exclaimed. The Golden Lion King's pupils shrank. He roared, "Get lost." In the next moment, he waved the spear in his hand and turned it into a golden lion, charging over. Boom. The collision shook the sky. That lion pounced on the sword light and kept biting. However, this time it was useless. This was the power of the great dragon sword soul. It was incomparably terrifying. In an instant, it slashed the lion into 2. What? It was destroyed. How could this be? The Golden Lion King was stunned. However, in an instant that sword light arrived in front of him. Damn it. Block it for me. This sword light was too fast. It was so fast that the Golden Lion King found it hard to believe. Therefore, he could only raise the golden spear in his hand to block. Crack. However, in the next moment, the golden spear broke and turned into countless flames, scattering in all directions. As for the Golden Lion King, he was sent flying by this sword. The golden flames on his body were split apart, revealing a golden armor. That said, the golden armor was unable to withstand the attack either. A crack appeared on it. The Golden Lion King was sent flying as it spat out large mouthfuls of blood, dyeing its body red. What? The Golden Lion King was sent flying. Furthermore, he was injured. Everyone was going crazy. Even the royal family elder couldn't believe it. Even the Empress cried out in alarm. Her face was filled with shock. The Golden Lion King was invited by her. He was a genius of the war race and was unrivaled. Could be said that he was a genius born for battle. But now she was actually sent flying by someone. She simply couldn't believe it. His Majesty, who was beside her, stared at the screen with glowing eyes. At this moment, everyone was stunned. Boom. Boom. The Golden Lion King was sent flying for several thousand miles. Along the way, it destroyed countless mountains, palaces, and pavilions. Dust and smoke filled the air as golden flames burned. Lin Xian snorted coldly. He turned into a stream of light and flew forward. He didn't know what kind of damage this sword would cause to the Golden Lion King, but he couldn't stay here any longer. Because it wouldn't be long before the formation enveloped him once more. Therefore he had to leave quickly. At the next moment he waved his hand. The dragon sword domain flew over and merged with him. Finally, it turned into an azure dragon. With a swing of its tail, it tore through the void and flew toward the valley ahead. Boom. Boom. At this moment, Lin Xian was truly powerful to the extreme. Therefore nothing could stop him. Did he disappear? Did that brat enter the valley? Damn it. I can't see clearly. In the Grand Imperial Hall, the royal family elders were roaring furiously, because the screen in front of them no longer showed Lin Xian's figure. They couldn't do anything about it. They could only see the scene around the third prince. However, the third prince was currently trapped in the seal. They couldn't come out for a while. Therefore they couldn't see into the valley at all. They could only be anxious. Even His Majesty's face was slightly gloomy. However, he couldn't do anything about it. Damn it. Did that brat enter? Could it be that the heavenly treasure was obtained by that brat? Outside, the third prince and the surrounding almighties were all screaming madly. They also wanted to chase after him. However, they couldn't even break through the light screen in front of them. Lin Xian continued forward, tearing through countless rays of light. Finally he arrived at the valley. His figure swayed and landed. The dragon sword domain revolved around him, supporting his space. It protected his safety. It couldn't be helped. The aura in the valley was too cold. When the rays of light hit the dragon sword domain, they produced a shocking collision sound. Fortunately, the dragon sword domain was evolved from the great dragon sword soul. Therefore it was incomparably tough. Otherwise, if it was an elite expert's domain, it would probably be penetrated in an instant. How terrifying. Damn it. What exactly is that thing? Lin Xian's expression was serious. He realized that the light pillar in front of him was more terrifying than he had imagined. Previously, when he was outside the valley, he didn't feel it. However, now that he was inside the valley, every aura made him fearful. In the next moment he used the heavenly secret god eyes. The golden light was like a sharp sword that pierced through the void. Through the countless rays of light, Lin Xian saw the scene inside clearly. Soon he was stunned. A hint of passion appeared in his eyes, and his body became excited. Because in front of him was an ancient sword that was inserted into the soil. That ancient sword was very simple and unadorned. It was obvious that it was an ancient item. That terrifying pillar of light was emitted by this ancient sword. A peerless treasure sword. This was definitely a peerless treasure sword. Lin Xian was extremely shocked. As a swordsman, he could naturally feel the aura emitted by the long sword in front of him. It was much more terrifying than the 9 Hell Demon sword in his hand. In fact, it had completely surpassed those top-grade treasured sabers that he had obtained before. One had to know that those sabers were all top-grade earth-grade treasures. However, in front of this ancient sword they were nothing at all. The difference between the two was like the sun and the moon and a firefly. One could imagine how terrifying the grade of the ancient sword in front of him was. Could it be that it was a heaven-grade treasure that surpassed earth-grade treasures? Thinking of this, Lin Xian was shocked and sucked in a breath of cold air. If this was true, then he would definitely be rich. A heaven-grade treasure was the same as a heaven-grade cultivation technique. They were very special and each of them was a priceless treasure. Lin Xian had already tasted the power of a heaven-grade cultivation technique. He had practiced the first few moves of the chaotic Heaven Destroyer sword, and its power had far surpassed all earth-grade martial arts. And the heaven-grade treasure in front of him automatically emitted light that could penetrate an elite expert. One could imagine how terrifying it was. If he could obtain it and use it with the great dragon sword soul, then his combat strength would reach an incomparably heaven-defying realm. Chapter 2150. Just by standing there and feeling the surrounding light, it was already very difficult to resist. If he continued forward, the resistance would be even greater. And the truth was indeed so. Lin Xian had just taken a few steps when he felt the sword chi in front of him. It was like a wild beast crazily pouncing on him. He had no choice but to stop. In the next moment Lin Xian stopped. His eyes flickered as he thought of a countermeasure. And just as Lin Xian was thinking of how to obtain the heaven-ranked treasure sword, a long roar came from outside. Then a golden light tore through the sky. The Golden Lion King quickly charged over. His hair was disheveled and golden light engulfed his body. He was like an angry demon king with killing intent surging all over his body. Angry, he was really too angry. Because no one had ever been able to injure him. And he was actually injured by a king younger than him. This was intolerable. The sword wound on his body was healed by a secret technique, but the anger in the Golden Lion King's heart could not be quelled. Especially when he knew that Lin Xian had already entered the valley ahead, he roared even more furiously. He waved his hands and tore through the void, flying forward quickly. The Golden Lion King also entered. Seeing this scene, the powerhouses around the third prince exclaimed, The imperial family elder also cried out in surprise. His face was full of envy, but there was nothing he could do. He could only watch helplessly. However, they were very puzzled. Did Lin Xian obtain the treasure? And could the Golden Lion King reverse the situation? Who would obtain the heavenly treasure in the end? They did not know, but they were very anxious. At this moment, a red-clothed powerhouse at the side said, "Third Prince, don't hesitate. Quickly use your trump card. Otherwise we won't have any chance." "That's right, Third Prince. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You must not miss it." The surrounding powerhouses all advised. The Third Prince's face was gloomy, as if he was thinking. In the end, he gritted his teeth and decided to use his trump card. It was not that he did not have any trump cards, but he was prepared to use them to deal with the First Prince. Because the First Prince was the greatest threat to his position as the Crown Prince. If he used them rashly, it would be difficult to deal with the First Prince in the future. But now he could not care so much. Judging from the light in front of him and the image of heaven and earth, this was definitely a rare treasure. If he could obtain it, he might be able to defeat the First Prince. Thinking of this, his expression turned serious as he took out a weapon from his storage ring. It was something similar to a pair of scissors. However, it was not an ordinary pair of scissors. Instead, it was a terrifying treasure that had two flood dragons coiling around each other. Flood dragon scissors. A top-grade earth step artifact. Boom. Boom. In the next moment, the Third Prince activated his Tao of Dragon aura and infused it into the scissors in his hand. Immediately, the Jiao Dragon scissors trembled as if it had come alive. The two flood dragons were spiraling around each other and letting out deafening roars. Boom. Boom. Then he slammed into the light screen in front of him. Then the light screen shattered and the Third Prince was freed. However, he didn't stop. Instead, he quickly helped the surrounding powerful beings out of their predicament. After the Almighties broke free, they poured their spiritual energy into the Jiao Dragon scissors. Instantly, the scissors grew bigger. They were thousands of feet long, as if two real flood dragons had come back to life. They roared at the sky, waved their claws, and tore their mouths apart. In an instant, all the Almighties on the Third Prince's side were rescued. The Jiao Dragon scissors were the Third Prince's treasure. It seemed that the Third Prince was really going to use his trump card. When the royal elders saw this scene, they began to discuss among themselves. The eyes of the royal elders who supported the Third Prince flickered. It seemed that the Third Prince was really going to get serious. If that was the case, the Third Prince might have a chance. The Third Prince was not weak. He was definitely a top genius. Moreover, the Jiao Dragon scissors was definitely not the only trump card he had. If he used all of them, in addition to the help of the surrounding Almighties, perhaps even the Golden Lion King would not be able to fight against him. These people discussed animatedly. As for the Third Prince, he led 4 Almighties and charged over quickly. Boom. In the valley, Lin Xian was thinking about how to obtain the Heaven Ancient Sword. At this moment, an angry roar came from behind, accompanied by an extremely terrifying energy. In the next moment, he frowned and turned around. Then he saw a golden figure charging over. However, when that figure entered the valley, he was stunned and slowed down. Obviously, that was the Golden Lion King. Moreover, he could feel the terrifying sword chi in the valley. As expected, after entering the valley, the Golden Lion King's expression became incomparably serious. In the end, he had no choice but to summon an illusory lion to cover his body. Only then could he ensure his safety. What was this place? What was in front of him? The Golden Lion King's expression was serious and his eyes flickered. He did not expect the aura in the valley to be so terrifying. Even if he was a genius of the war tribe, he had to be careful. Soon he looked around and saw Lin Xian's figure. His face immediately turned gloomy. However, he did not make a move. Instead, he snorted coldly. Because the aura was so terrifying, it was very disadvantageous for him to make a move. Moreover, the most important reason for coming to this valley was to obtain the treasures inside. He decided to wait until he obtained the treasures before killing Lin Xian to avenge the hatred in his heart. In the next moment, the Golden Lion King took a step forward, wanting to walk forward. However, the more he walked, the more frightened he became. In the end, the illusory golden lion on his body was pierced through by the terrifying sword chi. He had no choice but to stop. Moreover, he had to summon a golden domain to cover himself. Next, the Golden Lion King also encountered trouble. Moreover, he was also thinking about how he could walk forward and obtain the treasures. Seeing this scene, Lin Xian sneered. It seemed that the Golden Lion King could not get close. However, at this moment, the sound of something breaking through the air came from behind again. Seeing this scene, Lin Xian raised his eyebrows and turned his head to look. Someone else came in? Who could it be? The third prince? However, he soon discovered that it was indeed the third prince. Not only the third prince, but there were also 4 elite powerhouses beside the third prince. Their faces were gloomy as they flew over at full speed. Was really them? Lin Xian was astonished. He did not expect the third prince to be able to escape. Moreover, all the powerhouses around him were able to escape. As expected of a prince of the imperial family. The third prince indeed had a trump card in his hand. When Lin Xian saw the 2 huge flood dragons surrounding the third prince, he narrowed his eyes. The aura that the other party was emitting was definitely a treasure. Moreover, it was a top-grade treasure. Chapter 2151. Lin Xian squinted his eyes when he saw the 2 giant dragons surrounding the third prince. The aura that the third prince was emitting was definitely a treasure. Moreover, it was a top-notch treasure. It seemed that he had underestimated the third prince previously. However, he did not pay too much attention to it. So what if the third prince had a trump card? It would not be easy for him to make a move in this valley. The Golden Lion King also turned his head and glanced at the third prince and the others. Then he withdrew his gaze and no longer paid attention to them. What he needed to do now was to find a way to get closer. As expected, when the third prince came in, he was overjoyed because he saw Lin Xian and the Golden Lion King standing in front of him. It seemed that he did not succeed. In this way he would definitely have a chance to get the treasure. However, he soon frowned and a hint of shock appeared in his eyes. That was because after entering the valley, he felt that the pressure had multiplied. The surrounding light pillars were a great threat to him. It caused the 2 dragons beside him to tremble slightly. But in the end, the third prince had no choice but to stop and land in the valley. Then he looked around in bewilderment. The elite almighties behind him were also frowning. Pressure, threat, they felt a great sense of danger. It was as if the light pillars in front of them could easily take their lives. What was that thing? How could it have such a terrifying aura? The third prince and the others were extremely shocked. The imperial family elders were also exclaiming. Through the third prince they finally saw the scene in the valley. Lin Xian was there. The Golden Lion King was there too. Neither of them succeeded. That was great. Many of the imperial family elders let out a sigh of relief. That was because neither Lin Xian nor the Golden Lion King were from their imperial family. If they got the treasure, it would not be good for the imperial family. However, if the third prince got it, it would be different. After all, the third prince was a member of the imperial family of the Tai dynasty. Moreover, he was a prince. If the third prince got it, it would be equivalent to the strength of the Tai dynasty increasing. But very quickly, these imperial family elders frowned because they discovered that the third prince and the others had stopped as well. They were no longer moving forward. What was going on? Why aren't you moving? Some elders frowned while the other elders said. It seemed like this valley was not simple. Even Lin Xian and the Golden Lion King did not act rashly. Presumably there was a huge crisis. Look, the flood dragon scissors are even shaking. Heavens, what kind of power is this? To be able to make the flood dragon scissors tremble? Some of the elders noticed this and many of them cried out in surprise. The flood dragon scissors was a top-tier earth rank artifact. Moreover, with the support of the Tao of Dragon, its power could be multiplied. It could be said to be incomparably terrifying. However, even with that being the case, the ravine was still trembling uncontrollably. From that, one could imagine how terrifying the aura and power inside was. What the hell was that? I don't know. However, from the looks of it, if it was a treasure, it would definitely surpass the earth rank. Could it be a heaven-step treasure? Thinking of this, they sucked in a breath of cold air. Even their Tai dynasty only had a few heaven-grade treasures. The third prince and the others stopped in their tracks and looked ahead in bewilderment. But at this moment, an elder raised his hand and shot out a blue light shield, which flew forward. This was a mid-tier earth rank artifact. At this moment, it flew forward like a meteor. However, after flying for a few dozen meters, it exploded into pieces. Such a terrifying power. Seeing this scene, the third prince and the others' faces turned ugly. They could not break a mid-tier earth rank artifact, but here, it shattered so easily. One could imagine how terrifying it was ahead. Even if they had a top-tier earth rank artifact, they might not be safe. It seemed like they had to plan carefully. At this moment, the Golden Lion King moved. He looked ahead like a god of war and took out a golden wheel. That golden wheel kept enlarging. In the end, it was like a mountain, completely enveloping the Golden Lion King. The golden wheel was incomparably dazzling. It emitted mysterious runes and revolved around the Golden Lion King. That terrifying aura blocked the countless rays of light in front. But the Golden Lion King began to move its feet and walked forward. Although it had the protection of the Supreme Wheel, it walked very carefully. Damn it, this Golden Lion King actually has such a treasure. Seeing this scene, the third prince and the others' faces turned ugly. On the other side, Lin Xian also made his move. He had many treasures in his hands. Heaven and earth treasures, cultivation techniques, secret manuals, and all kinds of artifacts. Even the wealth of a peerless almighty might not be as much as his. However, after looking around, he could not find anything that could resist the aura and power here. However, he thought of something else. The sage's hand bone. This was something he had spent a lot of effort and luck to obtain last time. It had been left in the black earth all this time. Because the sage's hand bone was too powerful, he could not control it. However, it seemed that he had to take it out in advance. The sage's hand bone should be able to resist the heaven-rank ancient sword. Therefore, Lin Xian communicated with He Tu and decided to use the sage's hand bone. But in the next moment, Lin Xian's expression turned solemn. A black armor appeared on his body and the dragon sword domain completely enveloped him. He carefully controlled and took out the sage's hand bone from the black earth. This was not a complete bone, only a small section. It was very small and floated beside Lin Xian. It could be said that it was almost negligible. However, the aura it emitted was too terrifying. Moreover, there were countless runes flickering on it. This was a restriction created by He Tu and the dark red divine dragon. Because the sage's hand bone in its complete state was too powerful, he could not withstand this power at all. It had to be sealed. On it, there were 9 ancient runes that formed 9 seals. Even so, Lin Xian still felt a burst of fear. He carefully controlled the sage's hand bone. As expected, the sage's hand bone was like a divine spear that cut through the countless light pillars in front of it. Then Lin Xian also moved forward. What? This kid also has a heaven-defying treasure. Seeing that Lin Xian could move forward again, the third prince and the surrounding almighties exclaimed. Third prince, what should we do? A few almighties asked. They had also used their treasures, but it was difficult for them to move forward. It seemed that they could only use that thing. Chapter 2152. After all, he was already here. If he were to go back now, he would definitely be unwilling. Therefore, he decided to use his trump card again. But a silver-white light appeared from his body and hung above his head. It was a silver bottle that was half a meter tall. There were mysterious runes carved on it. Under the support of the dragon aura, it quickly expanded and formed a silver light that enveloped Prince Shan and the others. The Imperial Bottle. It wasn't an Earth-rank artifact, but an Imperial Bottle. It was refined by the top blacksmith of the Imperial Physician dynasty. It was extremely powerful, even surpassing a top-grade artifact. However, there was also a shortcoming, and that was that the number of times he could use it was limited. Normally he could only use it 3 to 5 times. It could be said to be very precious. Unless it was an emergency, it wouldn't be taken out. Sure enough, when the third prince took out the royal Dao bottle, the elders in the Grand Imperial Hall began to discuss after seeing it. It seemed like the third prince was determined to get his hands on it. Otherwise, he wouldn't take out the Imperial Bottle. That's right. This item should be used in the final battle against the first prince and the 8th prince. Now that he took it out in advance, what would he use at that time? It couldn't be helped. The item in front was too tempting. If he could get it, even the first prince wouldn't be able to fight against him. Everyone was discussing, but they all looked at the light screen in front of them. Even the Empress was nervous. Fortunately, the Golden Lion King was still inside and it seemed to be walking at the front. This made her feel more at ease. As long as the Golden Lion King got his hands on the treasure, he would be able to help the first prince defeat the other princes. However, what made her worried was that the young man called Lin Xian was following closely behind. His speed wasn't slow either. Lin Xian was the 8th prince's man. She couldn't let him get the treasure. The Empress snorted in her heart. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, the Golden Lion King arrived 100 meters away from the center of the light screen. Suddenly, the pressure and power there became stronger again. Clang. The Golden Lion King also suffered a great impact. The golden wheel above his head emitted an incomparable light. The two of them clashed, creating a shocking collision. The handsome face of the Golden Lion King was also somewhat malevolent. He roared angrily, and the golden wheel blossomed with light. It was like a sun as it spun quickly. Then they formed beams of powerful light that tore the void into pieces. Under the terrifying rotation of the golden wheel, the murderous aura permeated the surroundings and shattered the pressure in front of him. This caused the Golden Lion King to move forward once again. How terrifying! When the royal elders saw this scene, they cried out in alarm. This should be the war race's magical treasure, right? It was incomparably terrifying after all. On the other side, Lin Xian had also reached the 100-meter mark. Suddenly he felt the pressure increase exponentially. Immediately, his black battle armor began to tremble rapidly. The light on it also trembled non-stop as if it would shatter at any moment. Lin Xian took a deep breath as a fierce look appeared in his eyes. In the next moment, he carefully shot a beam of energy at the saint's hand bone. The sage's hand bone released a terrifying pressure that blasted away the energy in front of it. Lin Xian felt that the pressure on him had lessened a lot, which made him breathe a sigh of relief. However, he still walked forward with a serious expression. This brat had also successfully entered. What is that thing in his hand? The royal elders cried out in alarm. They couldn't see clearly. It couldn't be helped. It was just a light screen. They couldn't see through the light to see the real thing. However, thinking about it, it was definitely a rare treasure. Everyone looked at Lin Xian. Their eyes flickered as if they wanted to pierce through the void. However, they couldn't do it at all. But soon, these imperial family elders looked at the third prince. The imperial vase above the third prince's head released a supreme aura as it led the powerhouses to move forward quickly. When he reached the 100-meter mark, he also felt the pressure increase exponentially. As a result, the imperial vase emitted a supreme aura. Strands of golden aura drooped down and coiled around the third prince like a golden dragon, blocking the pressure. The third prince and the others set off again. They carefully walked forward. Boom. When they reached the 50-meter mark, the pressure increased exponentially again. The Golden Lion King stopped in his tracks. However, soon he roared and blew the huge wheel on his head again, causing it to spin rapidly. It was like a divine artifact releasing a terrifying power. When Lin Xian reached the 50-meter mark, he also felt the pressure. He carefully injected another beam of energy. Then the pressure of a saint erupted again. The third prince also pushed the imperial vase above his head. Like a divine artifact, thousands of beams of light hung down. The three of them withstood the pressure of the 50-meter mark. However, the speed of the three of them became extremely slow. Because if they went further, the pressure would become even more terrifying. Even if the three of them had powerful treasures in their hands, they still had to be careful. When they reached the 40-meter mark, the Golden Lion King stopped. His face was a little pale. It was obvious that using the Golden Lion King with all his strength consumed a lot of his energy. Lin Xian didn't move forward rashly. Because he was a little afraid of the saint's hand bone in his hand. If this thing exploded, it would be a terrifying threat to him. The third prince and the others also stopped. At this moment, not only the third prince, but the four elite powerhouses around him were also crazily injecting their internal energy into the imperial vase. They used the power of this artifact to the extreme. However, when they reached the 40-meter mark, their scalps also went numb. The pressure here was already extremely great. The five of them had no choice but to use all their strength. However, when they reached the 35-meter mark, the Golden Lion King suddenly let out a cracking sound. A small crack appeared on it and it quickly became bigger. What? That artifact was actually broken. When the imperial family elders saw this scene, they were extremely shocked. Although the Golden Lion King was separated by a light screen, they could imagine how terrifying it was. However, now, it actually couldn't withstand the pressure of the light pillar that reached the sky. It was simply too unbelievable. The Golden Lion King's expression also stiffened. Then he stopped. His face was incomparably gloomy. This was because the Golden Lion King above his head had a crack. This was the artifact he brought out from the war race. It was even more terrifying than a peak Earth rank artifact. However, now, a crack actually appeared. This made him shocked. At the same time, he also felt a trace of pain. Therefore, he stopped for a moment. This was because he didn't dare to move forward. If the Golden Lion King cracked, then the impact on him would be huge. Boom. Not only the Golden Lion King, a crack also appeared on the golden vase above the third prince's head. Chapter 2153. The imperial elders were also shocked. What? Even the imperial treasured vase cracked. Just what kind of terrifying realm had that pressure reached? Perhaps even a peerless expert wouldn't dare to stay here. What about that kid with the surname Lin? Did his item crack? Everyone looked at Lin Xian. Lin Xian stopped 35 meters away and didn't move. It was impossible for the sage's hand bone to crack. However, cracks appeared on the light on his body and it seemed like it would shatter at any time. However, Lin Xian gritted his teeth and undid the first seal. The sage's aura increased greatly. The damaged light screen was restored once again. Lin Xian also wore a jade pendant. This jade pendant was also given to him by Hey Tuesday. It could be used to establish a connection with the seal on the sage's hand. This way he wouldn't be affected too much. As expected, Lin Xian felt that the sage's aura had weakened a lot when he wore the jade pendant. If he didn't have the jade pendant, he would have no choice but to use the great dragon sword soul. Regardless of whether it was the sage's oppressive might or the heaven-reaching pillar of light, the pressure brought about by them was simply too strong. Fortunately, he wasn't in too much of a threat right now. Therefore, in the next moment he moved forward again. What? That kid's treasure wasn't damaged. How was that possible? When the Imperial elders saw this scene, their eyeballs almost popped out. Even the Imperial treasured vase and the war race's treasure were cracked. What kind of treasure did this kid have that he could be safe and sound? Damn it, where did this kid come from? Wasn't he too mysterious? What kind of treasure did he have to be able to resist such a terrifying power? Discussions could be heard. Even the Empress's eyes were cold. The Emperor's eyes flickered. Damn it. When the third prince and the others saw this scene, their faces darkened. Their Imperial treasured vase cracked, but the other party was fine. They couldn't believe it. On the other side, the Golden Lion King didn't say anything. However, he also stared at Lin Xian's figure with a cold killing intent in his eyes. In the next moment he roared again and walked forward. Ka. Along with the Golden Lion King's footsteps, the cracks on the golden wheel above its head became even larger. In an instant, 3 cracks appeared and the number of cracks was still increasing. On the other side, the third prince and the others were also gritting their teeth. He and the 4 elite powerhouses were going all out to get out of the ecliptic Aquarius. Cracks also appeared on the surface of the sword, spreading all over it. From the looks of it, it would shatter at any moment. In the end, Lin Xian was the first to reach the 30-meter mark and stopped. The Golden Lion King followed closely behind. However, when it reached the 30-meter mark, the pressure once again doubled. The golden Dharma wheel above his head instantly shattered into pieces. A sharp radiance appeared in the Golden Lion King's eyes. At the same time, a magic treasure quickly appeared on its body. That was a large golden cauldron. It was like a giant mountain as it floated above his head. Tens of thousands of streaks of radiance hung down, surrounding him, so that he would not be harmed by the beam of light. However, his face was unusually pale. Boom. When the third prince and the others arrived, the zodiac treasured vase above their heads shattered. The third prince and the others cried out in surprise. Then, the flood dragon scissors turned into 2 giant dragons that were hundreds of feet long and surrounded them. Then these people quickly retreated. When they reached the 50-meter mark, a purple pagoda appeared above their heads. It protected the third prince and the 4 elite powerhouses, temporarily withstanding the pressure. However, the 5 people's faces were incomparably ugly, because they had failed. With the power of the Emperor-based treasure, they could only withstand the pressure for 30 meters. They could not withstand any further. Even if the third prince had an Emperor-based treasure, he would not be able to reach the end. Therefore their faces were extremely ugly. Was the third prince going to give up? The imperial family elders also cried out in surprise. They could see that the third prince did not have the ability to reach the end. It could not be helped. They were not well prepared. That's right. Not to mention the third prince, even the 8th prince and the 1st prince might not be able to reach the end. Damn it. It would be great if we could go in. One of the imperial family elders gritted his teeth. The other elders also said, yes, even if we could not go in, we would have gotten the news in advance. We would have let these princes bring more treasures. But now they were not well prepared. It seemed that they could only wait for the next time. An elder sighed. Yes, even an emperor-based treasure could not withstand the pressure. The Golden Lion King and Lin Xian would not be able to reach the end. No one would be able to take the treasure. It did not matter. This space was always under the control of the Tai dynasty. Next time we would definitely be well prepared. When the time came we would definitely get the treasure. These elders discussed animatedly and began to prepare for the next entry. After all, the pressure emitted by the treasure was too terrifying. It was definitely a heaven-grade treasure. If they could get it, the strength of the Tai dynasty would increase. This was a very important matter to them. Of course, all of their plans were based on the premise that the Golden Lion King and Lin Xian would not be able to get the treasure in the end. Therefore, all of the imperial family elders were looking at the Golden Lion King. They were all looking at Lin Xian and the Golden Lion King. The Golden Lion King had a huge golden cauldron on his head. His body was overflowing with light and a mysterious rune appeared on his forehead. It seemed that the Golden Lion King had activated the power of his bloodline. The huge golden cauldron on his head was not simple either. No one knew if he could reach the end. The elders of the imperial family were discussing. However, many of them shook their heads. It was too difficult. The Golden Lion King was too young. If he had the cultivation of a supreme expert, he would definitely be able to reach the end. But now he was still far from it. As the crowd discussed among themselves, many of them turned to look at Lin Xian. Lin Xian's expression was also very serious. The sage's hand bone in front of him was emitting a monstrous aura, blocking the pressure that filled the sky. His body was also surrounded by countless sword chi protecting him. He was not worried about the sage's hand bone shattering because it was hard to find. No matter how strong the pressure was, it might not be able to shatter the hand bone. What he needed to do was to protect himself and not be threatened by the sage's aura. However, He Tu and the dark red divine dragon seemed to be very reliable this time. They played a huge role in his jade pendant. The two of them moved forward slowly. However, when they were 25 meters away, another crack appeared on the huge golden cauldron on the Golden Lion King's head. This made the Golden Lion King's expression unsightly. The rune on his forehead shone even more brightly. An incomparably terrifying bloodline power gushed out from the Golden Lion King's forehead and poured into the huge golden cauldron. The war race was born for battle. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.